Hold up, I am on my way, I'm in motion. Let's go to the ocean. Yeah, let's go outside. We can hang out on the beach without freezing.
Welcome to Crafty Beach. This is Julie, and welcome to Crafty Fall 2025, where I put together 40 of my Dollar Tree DIYs and finds this year for fall that I've done so far on my channel. I have a little bit of everything in today's video: DIYs, coffee bar, and even a tier tray. So I hope you enjoy these DIYs. For this DIY, I wanted to take the pumpkin wreath form from the Dollar Tree. This is a classic. I've decorated this lots of different ways, but I wanted to get creative and figure out a new way to make a pumpkin wreath. And I'm going to use paper bags from the Dollar Tree. What I want to do is I want to do like a crinkled paper, like almost like a basket woven look for this. And I want it to be big strips of paper. So I thought paper to bags from the Dollar Tree would be perfect. So I just cut the bottom off of some bags to get us started. And I'm going to go ahead and just make a good pile of them. I'll cut more as I go. And then I want them to be strips. So I'm going to also cut the sides off of them. That way it gets rid of the side parts without having to open them. Like this, that just gives me just plain panels. I want them to be large, almost the size of the lunch bag. And I will put them together to make like a caning material to go through the pumpkin. So for the first one, I'm going to go ahead. I was thinking how I could attach the paper to each other. I thought about using a glue stick, but I decided hot glue would probably be easier. And it worked really well and it didn't interfere with anything. And of course it dried really fast. So I'm just going to start by gluing them end to end like this. My first piece is going to be kind of small because I'm going to be doing one of the side pieces here of the pumpkin. So I want to cover all of the vertical parts of the pumpkin and the border first before I do the woven effect, like a basket. So I just crinkle the paper up and I'm going to do half of the pumpkin here at a time. I just put hot glue onto the metal wire, slightly wrapping that around as I, crinkle it up. And I love this like paper look. Wadding the paper up is definitely necessary for this to get the look that you're going to want. Once I get to the end here, I have just enough to kind of overlap the end. I want to cover as much as I can, so I wanted to cover that entire wire. So that's going to be one of my vertical parts of the basket weave. I didn't want the wire to show, so that is why I definitely wanted to do these parts of the pumpkin too. So I went ahead and glued two more of the bag pieces together, crinkled that up, and I'm going to add it to this one. As you can see, the pieces don't have to be very long to do the little vertical parts of the pumpkin. And same thing, I just hot glue that to the wire, just crinkling that, wrapping it around, and at the end also doing the same. Now, I went back and forth whether or not I should leave it the paper bag material, but I do end up painting it, and I really love how this turned out. For the third one, I do the same thing. I just put two of the bag pieces together, hot gluing that on, wrapping that around, and finishing this off. I'm going to continue that all the way across the pumpkin until all of the side up and down pieces are covered. And I don't know if you're thinking, you can't do an outdoor wreath with paper, but this is exactly where I'm making this wreath for my front door. And I will show you how I go about sealing this project, so hopefully it will hold up outdoors. So I have all of the up and down parts of the pumpkin here, but I also have to do the border of the pumpkin. I don't want any of the wire showing. So instead of doing just two pieces, this time I did three to give me a nice long piece here to weave. And I'm going to start right here at the pumpkin stem. And as you can see, I'm wrapping it around the wire from the top. That way it will cover everything. It will still look nice and it will go with the same aesthetic as the crinkled bag look. And this piece lasts all the way to about here. And I'm just going to continue gluing the bags together until I get all the way around the diameter of the pumpkin. And I do plan to use the paper bags for the pumpkin stem too. I think this crinkled look will look really good for that. So just 2 more bags here, I think will finish this part off. I'm gonna start right here, and then when I have too much material here at the end, I might as well start covering the pumpkin stem here, but I definitely plan to make that a lot longer. Now we can begin the weaving process. So what I'm going to do is glue at least 3 bags together. This is going to be for the bottom there, so it doesn't have to be super long. I glue them together, crinkle it up, and I overlap the sides. So I'm coming from the top and overlapping, and I do that on all of the side pieces just for uniformity. And then I just actually weave this through the different parts of the pumpkin till I get to the other side. And again, on this side, I also go from the top and glue that over the side. I'm going to do the same thing here for the next piece, but this time I'm going to do 4 of the bags. And as you can see, I don't want any holes in the bags. The top of the lunch bags have a little notch. I just make sure to overlap it enough so you don't see that. And it was the seams really blend in really nicely with this project. They're not super noticeable. But this time, when I wove it through, I did the opposite pattern. So if I went above before, I went under, but again, still going over the top of the side pieces like that. I don't want it to be a super tight weave. I want there to be space in between, but I definitely want to cover most of the pumpkin with this weave pattern. And so again, I did a total of 4 bags here, hot gluing it on top, and then again, alternating. This row is going to be the same as I did the first one. And just crinkling that as I go, cutting off the excess paper there at the end. I don't want any excess material if I can have that. And so that's like half of the pumpkin woven. I'm just going to continue to glue some bags together and finish off the weaving process on this pumpkin. So I think 2 more rows here should finish this off. And, you know, it's supposed to look a little bit irregular with all of the paper being wadded up, but I do plan to paint this, and I was really happy with how it turned out. I don't care if a little of the brown will show through since it is all folded up like that, but as long as most of it's going to get painted, I'm going to be happy with it. Now for the pumpkin stem, I'm going to do the same thing. I glued 2 of the bags together. I'm going to start right here, overlapping the wire there, and I of course want my pumpkin stem to be way longer to go to scale with this really large pumpkin wreath. I did another 2 pieces together and glued that side by side there on the pumpkin stem. And I think the 2 of them together, if I kind of wind them together, will be the proper thickness here for the pumpkin stem. And I wanted to kind of go off to the side like that. So I just secured mine with hot glue and trimmed off some excess paper. I do have a little spot here that you can see the wire, so I went ahead and covered that with paper as well. But basically, all of our paper here is done. I glued the stem down a little bit so it would not come all the way out, and just did a little bit of patching here at the pumpkin stem to hopefully provide some strength to that. The paper does have enough structure for the pumpkin stem to stand up on its own. Now, I do want to protect that pumpkin stem when I go to paint it. I don't want that to be the color, so I just put a paper bag over that and use some painter's tape so that part doesn't get painted. And I'm going to spray paint it. I thought that would be the easiest way. I found this great paint. It's called Rustic Orange from Lowe's, and it is a satin, which I didn't really want, but I'll show you how I get rid of the gloss on this because I don't want shiny paper. I start here at the bottom, spray painting that, trying to like get all of the paper elements that you can see from the front or the sides. I don't really care about the back. I'm not going to be painting back there. And I just kind of do 1 coat all over, a nice heavy coat as well though. And I just do all of the parts of the paper bag. And I'm really glad that I decided to paint it. Of course, a pumpkin should be orange, and so this is definitely going to be a lot of classic fall Dollar Tree DIYs today. I did notice that you could see a little bit of the brown bag there from the front, so I just went over it with a little bit more spray paint and I let it sit overnight because I really wanted that paint to set up and I didn't want it to be sticky. Now, I went ahead and removed the paper bag here, and I didn't have much overspray, a little bit I was able to trim off there on my pumpkin stem. But what I want to do now is I want to seal it to make it, you know, more weatherproof to go outdoors. I'm going to use a matte finish sealer, And hopefully this will take all the glossiness out of the satin paint too. First, I went ahead and sealed the pumpkin stem, which I hadn't painted. And I just went over the front and the back with that. But I also want to use that matte finish sealer to seal the entire pumpkin. This thing is so big. I had this large box and it was still kind of hard. But basically, I went over the entire pumpkin with one coat of the sealer, making sure to really get it covered. And I really think that that is going to help keep it dry outside on my front door. I do have a little bit of protection. One weird thing that happened though is the unfinished part here on the paper bag for the stem, it left this white residue, which is kind of strange. I don't know why. It didn't do that at all for the painted part. So I think I'm going to have to paint the stem. I actually had some khaki spray paint. So I think that this is going to work and it's going to be about the same color. So I just protected my pumpkin there and spray painted the pumpkin stem, the khaki, so you don't see that weird white residue that the sealant left. I really don't know why that happened. It must have been some kind of chemical reaction with the bag. And then I went over it and sealed it once it was dry. And now our pumpkin is all painted. And as you can see, it's not shiny anymore. That matte sealer really did the job. I got the exact look of orange I was going for. Now I thought about doing a bow for the top, but I thought fall leaves would be really cute. These burlap leaves from the Dollar Tree are really large, but this is a really large wreath, so I think that this will look really cute together. I think I'll do one of the burlap maple leaves here first, and just wiring that around with the wire that's already on there, the top of the pumpkin. And then I thought it would be pretty to mix up some of these like red and orange, like oak leaves. Again, they're all wired, so it's really easy to attach these to the top, but I think a total of 3 of them will look really good. And it's very to scale with the size of this pumpkin. So I just attached those to the top and we're almost done. I just need a way to hang it. I kind of closed everything in with paper, so I do have to get access here for that metal pumpkin stem that was part of the wreath form so that I can use some twine to make a hanger for this. And I want to make this like long enough to go over my wreath hanger for my front door. I absolutely love how this DIY turned out. It's exactly what I was envisioning. And who knew you could make a wreath with paper bags? Let me show you how it turned out. Here it is. If you know anything about these pumpkin wreath forms from the Dollar Tree, you kind of know the scale of these. They're really nice wreath, and I think this is going to look so cute on my front door for fall. Are you decorating for fall yet? It's everybody's favorite season, it seems. Hey guys, if you're enjoying today's video, be sure to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'd really appreciate it if you would hype this video using the new feature. I'm going to be making a little pumpkin wagon sign. I'm going to start with one of these square wood signs from the Dollar Tree, and the frame on them are not great. It's like an MDF wood, so I thought that we could make it look a little bit better by adding some of the cube wood beads from the Dollar Tree. So I'm just going to go ahead, remove the tag, remove the hanger from this because I actually want this to be a standing sign. I thought that might get in the way too of the wood beads that we're going to add to the border. And this is a fun way to make one of these signs from the Dollar Tree look a lot better. I'm going to leave the wood beads all strung together. That's going to make it easier to glue it on. And I'm just going to start here by hot gluing it on. Just making sure the cord that's wrapped around the last wood bead there is glued down so you can't see it. And I just go straight across, and it just happened to fit perfectly. So I don't have to spread it out or anything like that. I'm going to go ahead and cut it right here, save the rest of this wood bead garland for the side, and I'm going to go ahead and do the bottom because I want to be able to just fill in the gap between the two. And I was really pleased with how everything ended up spaced on this one. So again, I just hot glued this down, just making sure that everything is good and flat against that because they do like to spin a little bit. And then trim that off, and now I can use my remaining beads. So I used 2 packages of the wood bead garland to do the sides. One thing I like about the cube beads from the Dollar Tree is that they're easier to glue down for like a frame like this. Since they don't really have any like half wood beads, the Dollar Tree, I think these are a fun option. And I really kind of wanted a shadow box look for this pumpkin wagon DIY. So I went ahead and saw how many would fit, and look at that perfect fit on that size. I glued those down. I'm trimming off the excess string once I get them glued down, but I leave it on there to get started. And I just hot glue my last row down. And I'm going to paint this. This is like a natural wood color. I know it looks pretty light, but what I want to do is I want to paint the entire thing ivory, and I want it to be like a chippy ivory. So I'm just going to go in with a little chippy brush. These are some new brushes that I'm trying from Amazon. I did have a lot of bristles fall out. Every kind of chippy brush I use, I seem to have that problem, including like the chunky brushes from the Dollar Tree sometimes. So if you guys know of a good one, please let me know down in the comments below. I just went over everything with that. I want to paint the edges of the frame, which are that darker wood color. And then I want to paint all of the wood beads. I want to paint the back, but as you can see, I did it very chippy. So a little bit of the wood shows through, and I'm going to distress it even more because I like that distressed look. So I also go in there with some Antique Wax by Waverly, and I distress everything. I thought about making the wood beads like a different color, but I kind of wanted it to all blend in with the background. And I really like the distressed ivory look. It goes great with like farmhouse, but it also goes great with my coastal decor I have in my house. And I am just going over and distressing every little thing. If I get too much on there, I just kind of go over it with a baby wipe and blend that in. And if anything's too dark, like it's easy to distress a little too dark on the wood beads, you can just go back in there with your color that you were using before and just kind of work with it until you're happy with it, which is what I did. I distressed everything, and then I went back in with my ivory and distressed it back to ivory a little bit, but with still some of that distressing showing through. Once I'm done distressing it, sometimes it takes a little bit to get it exactly how you want it. I'm going to show you how I built this little wagon inside our little shadow box. I'm going to have a little standing sign like that. For the wagon, I'm going to use 3 of the wood rulers from the Dollar Tree. These are like school supply section at Dollar Tree, and I love crafting with these. All you have to do is remove the little stickers from them, and you have a great source of wood. They do have a little raised panel there in the front, and I'm just going to make that the back because I want little wood panels that can represent the side of a wooden wagon. So I'm going to measure, I think about right here, because I want a little bit of room for a handle, and I'm going to take all 3 of my wood rulers to my saw and cut those down to size. So I have 3 pieces of wood, and I want it to look like a little wagon cart full of pumpkins. For the pumpkins, I'm going to use some of the window clings from the Dollar Tree. I picked up this one that just has a couple of plain orange pumpkins on there, which is what I was going for this. And I do like the fact that they are different colors too. For the wheels, I'm going to use these jar lids that I found from the Dollar Tree. I thought these would be really fun wheels for my wagon. You could also use the wheels from like the little dump trucks and stuff like that from the toy section at the Dollar Tree, or get creative. I thought those kind of looked like wheels because they even have like the spokes on them. Then I'm going to make it all a little bit 3D. I was telling you I kind of wanted to be like a shadow box feel. So I'm going to use some of the wooden Jenga blocks from the Dollar Tree to bump the wagon out. And so I can kind of put items behind it like the pumpkin. So these are the 2 pumpkins that I'm going to use. This one's like a lighter orange yellow color, and this one's like a darker orange color. And I think 2 of those are going to fit perfectly here in my little pumpkin wagon. There is a little bit of an overlap though, and I don't want you to be able to see through that. So I did kind of cut around that because I do need the pumpkins to be sitting closely together, just so when I go to glue them on, you won't be able to see through them. To attach the little decals, window decals, I just put a thin coat of Mod Podge down here all over where the pumpkin needs to go and lay this in place. And I kind of have the spacing of where exactly I wanted these to be able to peek out at the top of my little pumpkin wagon. And it's really important to seal these on top because as you can see, they're very glossy, being that window decal material. But if you go over it with the matte Mod Podge from Dollar Tree, you can definitely tone that down and make it look a lot better. And it's a great way to add some pumpkins to the sign without printing anything or using your Cricut. Now for the wagon itself, I'm using the 3 wood rulers. I'm going to add a little bit of antique wax by Waverly to those, and one of the long wooden dowels from the Dollar Tree there. That's going to be the handle for our wagon. Then I just kind of blend that all with a baby wipe because I was really looking for like a medium stain. I didn't want it to be too dark, but I wanted it to be dark enough to have a little contrast so that I could add some words to my little pumpkin cart. For the 3 pieces of the little wagon here, I'm going to glue the Jenga blocks onto the back. They have that little wood bump out there. I just glue the Jenga blocks to each side, not all the way over to the edge. I don't want you to be able to see these. I just want these to act as spacers to push the little wagon out a little bit from the sign so I can add some things behind it. And that's going to make it easier to attach as well. I'm not going to add any words to the bottom of the cart because I'm going to have the wheels there. So I'm going to have mine say Farm Fresh Pumpkins. And I just went in with my ivory paint pen and I just did some big block letters, very similar to like the skinny font, the Raydon font. It's really easy to do. And then I'm going to do Farm Fresh. This is going to be the top of the wagon. And easier than actually getting my Cricut out and cutting some vinyl. But if you don't like your penmanship, you can always cut some vinyl for this part. It'd be really cute too. And I did have to go over it with 2 coats because that ivory kind of blended into that antique wax stain there a little bit. And I really want that to pop against the wood. I think that looks pretty good and we can start putting this together. So the Farm Fresh will be right under the pumpkins. And just like this. I want a little space in between. And then again, the little jar lids that we're going to use for the wheels, I'm going to go ahead and attach those now. I'm going to glue them on like this. At first, I was going to do it the other direction, but I didn't really like the way it looked. It would kind of set it far away from the wagon, and I wanted to look like it's part of the wagon. So I just hot glued these on upside down like this, trying to have it even. I don't want like where the axle should be is going to be like underneath the cart. And then I'm going to hot glue the first one down here. And I kind of line that up to the very bottom, the wheels. I'm going to have a little bit of spacing in between the different pieces of the cart. And I just put some hot glue on the back of those Jenga blocks and glued these other pieces down just like that, creating a little bit of a wagon. Now this is the wagon handle. I don't have a lot of room for this since it's a square sign, but we're going to make it work. I had stained this wood down. I'm just going to cut it down with my miter scissors like that. And then I just need like a small piece maybe for the handle. So I just cut a smaller piece down and we're just going to put that at the very top for a little makeshift handle. You could use dowels, popsicle sticks, lots of different things for your handle. I think this one looks pretty cute. I added a little hot glue here to the back and glued this down, kind of coming at an angle from the bottom, but kind of hidden underneath the cart. And then here's the handle. I just attached that with hot glue as well. Now I want the pumpkins to look like they are sitting like in mossy material. So I'm going to go in with some Spanish moss. I have not been able to find this at Dollar Tree forever, but I was able to get some at Walmart. And I'm just pushing that in there right there at the top of the cart. I also want it to look like the entire thing is filled with like Spanish moss and pumpkins. So I took some Spanish moss and I kind of fed it in between the little wood pieces like that so it looks like it is filled with those. To make it a standing sign, I'm just going to use a wood Jenga block from Five Below. I hot glue it on not quite to the bottom, but pretty close so it leans back slightly, and that makes a great standing sign. And then the final thing is I wanted to add something that would look like grass, and I wanted orange, ivory, and green for my DIY, so I needed a little green on this one. I went in with some reindeer moss, and I'm just going to glue this here at the very bottom where it looks like the little pumpkin cart is standing in grass. So I just do a little bit here and there and kind of tuck it behind the wheels, just attaching everything with hot glue. I think this DIY turned out so precious. I really like it. My son is home for the holiday weekend. He helped me pick out these wheels at Dollar Tree and he thinks it turned out pretty cute too. This is how it turned out. My Farm Fresh Pumpkins wagon. Very farmhouse looking and beautiful, I think, for fall. Here's a little closer look of how this turned out. Aren't those jar lids fun? I really enjoyed those, and the little wagon is just so fun. Thinking about making like a 3D version of it too. That would be fun. For this fall DIY, I got some of the pumpkin stacks. These are the ones that are $1.50 right now at Dollar Tree. And I got the ones that are three different colors. So white, like a golden color, and an orange for the bottom. I want to make mine look like a scarecrow. So I start here at the bottom. I mix some navy blue acrylic paint with some white. And I want it to look like the scarecrow is wearing blue jeans. I'm not necessarily going to do overalls. I think just blue jeans will be fine. And so I want to combine a couple navy colors together. I really like using the little sponge stencil daubers like this to paint plastic items like this, especially. I'm going to be using this indoors, so I'm not worried about the paint coming off of this. But on the large stackable pumpkins from the Dollar Tree, I have had issues with rain and the acrylic paint outside. So if you're going to put yours outside, you might want to seal it after you paint yours. I just went over all of it with that great navy color. It did a good job covering up that bright orange here with one coat of paint. And then I added another color. This one was called Too Blue. It's very similar to the one that I mixed, but a little bit different shade of blue. And I just kind of daubed that all over with a smaller little stencil dauber to give it like that mottled look that blue jeans have. And I really like the texture that gave to it. I'm not going to be doing like legs or anything like that. We're just going to have the bottom pumpkin represent blue jeans for the scarecrow. And I think that looks pretty good. I like the mottled appearance of it. For the middle part of the scarecrow, the middle pumpkin, we're going to have that be the shirt. Now, I decided to give mine arms. I've seen lots of people making scarecrows out of their stacking pumpkins, but nobody's giving them arms. So what I'm going to do is use my hot craft knife. This holds like razor blades. It's like the hot craft knife. I got this on Amazon, and I just removed the blades. It makes the perfect holes in plastic items from the Dollar Tree. So I just poked a hole in each side, and I'm just going to use a wood dowel from the Dollar Tree for the scarecrow arms. Now, I wanted my scarecrow to be wearing a plaid shirt, of course, for fall. So I just took one of these plaid napkins from the Dollar Tree, and we are going to decoupage the second pumpkin. And so I just went ahead and started tearing strips. I tore the end off so I would have like the ragged edges that blend so much easier when you do decoupage. And I went ahead and shredded the entire napkin with these long pieces like this. And one napkin should be plenty to do the shirt here for this pumpkin. I'm just going to go over the pumpkin with a very thin coat of Mod Podge. And I can do a couple here at a time. I just start here at the lip. I don't want to interfere with that because I'm going to need that to be able to pop all the pumpkins together. And then just cut off the excess material here. I guess napkin material. And then I can use that same piece for a second row. I am going to slightly overlap it. And it is a thin napkin being from Dollar Tree, and it's only one layer now. So since the middle pumpkin was orange, it does make the shirt look like an orange plaid, but I kind of like that for fall. So I'm going to embrace it. And even though I've poked the holes here in the side, I just went ahead and decoupaged the napkin all the way around, covering the holes. I can always go and cut that excess material out of there once I get it covered. The top pumpkin is going to be the head of the scarecrow, and I added so many little fun details to this project. I really love how he turned out. Now, if you wanted to do this project with the large stackable pumpkins that are $7 at the Dollar Tree right now, I think it would be really cute too. You could get really creative. But this is a nice smaller DIY that I can actually sit like on a table or counter, and it's not going to take up too much space like the large stackable ones are actually pretty big. And I just keep working my way around. If I have any areas that need to be patched like that, I can do that because the plaid design is pretty forgiving, and I'm not trying to line anything up. I just want it to look like it is a plaid shirt when I am done with it. And as you can see, I'm also kind of putting the excess napkin material underneath that little ledge there at the top. So again, that it doesn't interfere with attaching the head of the scarecrow pumpkin to this DIY. So I have this completely covered, and I think I have done a good job of gluing it down. I'm going to seal that a little bit, and this is what it looks like when it is dry. I just went in with a little screwdriver, poked some holes here for the hole that I had put on each side. It's pretty easy to find to get rid of the excess material there, and then I can add the dowel for Scarecrow arms. I'm just using the one piece to go all the way through it like that. I don't want my arms to slide around though, so since I can get on the inside of the pumpkin, I'm going to go ahead and secure the dowel there with some hot glue so it won't slide around. Now I have to do sleeves for the scarecrow arm, so I'm going to use that same napkin material to be able to do that. I don't want them to have scrawny arms though, like the wood dowel, so I'm going to have to actually find some material to make that a little bit more plush or stuffed too. So I just cut out some of that, and then I thought the automotive towel from the Dollar Tree might be really good for that. I wouldn't have the individual polyfill, so I'm going to try that. It's soft and fluffy like polyfill too, and I can cut it down to size. So I cut down a little piece of it and then measure how wide my arm is. And I'm going to cut a piece that I can wrap around it. And I do the same thing here for both sides, just cutting a piece. And I do want it to be soft and fluffy, so I do use the finish seam here on the inside, hot gluing that to the wooden dowel like that. And I do plan to make it look like the sleeves are stuffed with hay too for the scarecrow effect. I just wrapped this piece all the way around to give me a little bit more of a significant arm here for our scarecrow, so it's not quite so skinny. And then I will use the napkin material to cover that to make it look like a plaid shirt for fall. I'm going to do the same thing here on the other side, just hot gluing that to the dowel and wrapping that around, securing it with hot glue. And I liked that method. It worked really well for polyfill. Now, before I attach the sleeves, I'm going to go ahead and add the hay effect. I'm just going to use some Dollar Tree raffia, and I'm just going to cut down some individual pieces that can stick out of the side of the arm, and I'm just going to attach it to that same material, just kind of hot gluing one piece on at a time like that. But I can do quite a bit before the hot glue starts to set up. And I just went all the way around, just making that as full and kind of crazy looking as I can, so that will peek out at the sides of the scarecrow's shirt. I also kind of reinforced that a little bit with a little bit of twine, wrapping that around and tying that off. In case my hot glue doesn't hold up there, I don't want it to fall out. I cut another little bunch down here for the other side, and we're going to attach that as well. Now, I was trying to decide how I could kind of decoupage that napkin material onto that fluffy fabric. I thought Mod Podge probably wouldn't be my best bet for that. So I actually end up using a little hot glue to get us started, but I do go back and seal it kind of from the top of it to attach it to that fluffy material, and it seemed to work pretty well. So we have the raffia on both sides, and I just need to cut the napkin down here to size to make a little sleeve. And I need a little bit of overlap, but not much. So just cutting that down to size. And I just hot glued this here to the bottom of the scarecrow arm. And I want that to overlap where I've tied that off and overlap any of the fabric where you can really only see the raffia there at the end. And I just wrapped that around, overlapping this and hot gluing this here. And then I just kind of cut off the excess material, and that seemed to work pretty well. But one thing to note though, since I am going over white now instead of orange like on the pumpkin, it does look a different color and it hasn't been sealed yet. So I am going to tint my Mod Podge to seal that to kind of make everything coordinate. I also tied off the end of the sleeve with some twine just to make sure that everything kind of stays in place there. And I'm going to do the same thing here on my other sleeve for the scarecrow. There was definitely a lot of steps on this DIY, but I absolutely love how he turned out. He's so sweet. So I did the same thing here, just hot gluing the napkin on. And now that I have both sleeves on, I went ahead and tied this one off too. The twine actually adds a little rustic touch to it too, but I also wanted to hide that white material inside. I didn't want you to be able to see any of that. I just want you to be able to see the raffia there on the side. So you can see the color difference there between the sleeves and the shirt. So I'm going to tint my Mod Podge to seal it. So I added some red pumpkin paint, it was the color, with some Mod Podge to tint it. And I'm going to go over and seal that material now. And then I just kind of used a baby wipe to blend that in so it's not too heavy, kind of thin it out a little bit. And I did the same thing here. Now it does make it look like an orange plaid now, but I'm also going to have to seal the pumpkin itself too to try to make my oranges kind of match a little bit better. I do want it to all look like one fall plaid shirt. And I'm glad I decided to use the plaid napkins. I think the decoupage of that would be easier than trying to attach plaid fabric from the Dollar Tree. But again, I went ahead and sealed the rest of the pumpkin too so that everything coordinates really well. And that is a nice color for a Scarecrow shirt. And again, I just kind of blended it there with a baby wipe to spread that out. Now for the top pumpkin of our pumpkin stack, it's kind of small, so you don't have a lot of room to work with. I'm going to draw on a scarecrow face. I just did 2 teardrop eyes, all in black. I can always go back and add some white features to this. And then I'm going to do a little orange scarecrow nose, which is just like a rounded triangle. I do that with an orange paint pen. And then go back in and do a squiggly line smile here with some stitching for my scarecrow mouth. Very classic looking. And then I can add the details. Once I got it dried, I did a little eye shine there and like a little white of the eye for the eyes to give it a little character. And then I also kind of outlined the scarecrow nose, added some stitching to that as well, and some eyelashes here kind of going out to one side. Really simple, but I love how it turned out. I think it's really cute for a little scarecrow face. But our scarecrow is definitely going to need some hair as well. We're also going to be DIYing him a hat. So again, I take some raffia from the Dollar Tree and I cut here a little batch that can kind of go down on both sides like that, where I can kind of bundle it in the middle. So I take some twine and just kind of tie that off. So we have one piece here with like raffia hair kind of coming out both sides. I do want it to look a little all over the place, different lengths and stuff like that to make it look ragged like a scarecrow. I attached my first bundle there with hot glue, and I still have the twine on there so I can add more hair as well. So I cut out another little bunch of raffia here, and I'm going to tie that on with that same twine here to add a little bit more hair. We can start building out the scarecrow hair here in the back. I don't really need to remove the pumpkin stem or anything. I'm going to be putting a hat over that, but I do need some bangs. So I'm going to do this bundle kind of sideways like this, so it's a little shorter in the front to look like bangs so it doesn't cover up the entire face of the scarecrow. And then for the scarecrow hat, I thought burlap would be great for that. So this is some of the Dollar Tree burlap. I'm just going to cut out a little piece here that we can use for a hat. I'm going to do a really simple scarecrow hat, like a little pointy hat here. And that can also have like the raffia hair coming out from the sides. Now, it's not a very large head for this, so I definitely need a tiny little hat here. It's not going to be super big, but I just cut a little piece down and start wrapping that around how I'm going to want it to look. I fold up one piece there to be like the brim of the hat, and I start making it into like a cone shape. So I'm going to start hot gluing it down in place and kind of shaping it as I go. Just a really quick no sew scarecrow hat, which is my favorite. But again, folding it there is pretty important there for the brim of the hat. And I just glued it there at the bottom. And I just kind of keep shaping it as I go. I do want it to be a cone shape. I did find that it was a little bit longer than I needed it to be. And so I'm going to trim off a little bit of the fabric here. You could make it like a straight across hat, or you can make it a pointy hat. Scarecrows have both. I thought a pointy hat would be cute, so I just made it have that cone shape and attached it with hot glue, trying to close it up a little bit, but leaving a little bit of room there on the top for some hair. The next thing I add is a little sunflower for the hat, one of the wired sunflowers from the Dollar Tree. And I just glued that right there on his little burlap hat. And I think he's looking really cute. I thought I could also use the burlap for some patches on the blue jeans and the shirt. So I think 3 patches would be really cute. So I just took a little strip of burlap here and I'm just going to cut out 3 little square pieces. That way I can add some little patches. You could also use the plaid napkin if you wanted. This is kind of a dark blue material though, so I thought the burlap patches might look a little bit better since that napkin was really thin. And I'm going to glue like just a patch here on each side with a hot glue, 2 down on the blue jeans, and 1 on the shirt. Super cute. I think the shirt needs buttons too, though, like a little button down flannel. So I used some of my Dollar Tree buttons. I picked out 3 of the brown ones. I noticed most of those are black. And they're different sizes, but I kind of like that. I'm going to hot glue those down here, the front of the shirt, for another fun detail to our little scarecrow. It's so much fun. You can really add lots of materials to this and put it together how you would like. Now it's time to pop it together. I went ahead and popped the middle section on, and then we're going to do the top pumpkin as well. But I did think he needed maybe a little bit more hay details. So I took some of the raffia and I tied it around between the 2 bottom pumpkins like that. I'm just going to knot it, and that gives it a fun little straw look down here at the bottom as well. That looks really cute. And then I thought we could also add some of the raffia to make it look like straw coming from the scarecrow head here out of the neck. So what I did was I cut some of the raffia down into little tiny pieces, added some hot glue here around the neck, and I'm just going to do it on the front, kind of around the sides here to make it look like straw is coming from his head. I did think about painting the top pumpkin instead of just leaving it white, but I didn't. I wanted it to be a little bit different color than the burlap hat for a little bit of contrast. So I think white is just fine for that. I'm also going to add some raffia coming out of the top of his hat, like his hat is completely filled with straw as well. And then his hair is a little patchy, so I decided to add some more raffia here and there, just hot gluing that there on the inside of the hat until his hair is a little bit fuller here on the back. Just lots of little details to this DIY, but in the end, they paid off because he is so adorable. I really love how he turned out. So this is what he looks like so far. He's really cute, but I had some more ideas. I thought maybe we could have like a little black crow like landing on his arm. So I wanted something very simple. I just used some black felt and a chalk marker and sketched out a simple bird. I do want it to have kind of a tail here like a crow though. So I think that shape would work. Just something very simple like the head, the beak, and a little bit of tail feathers there. I didn't really use a stencil at all. I just cut that down, and I think that's going to be fine. I am going to have to cut out a second one here because I do want to stuff it a little bit and make it a little bit more 3D since the scarecrow is as well. So I have 2 little pieces here like that. I can hide the chalky area here in the middle. I attached one end with hot glue like that, and I'm going to stuff it with some cotton balls, a great source for a tiny bit of polyfill, and you can get those from the Dollar Tree as well. I just stuff a little bit of the stuffing inside, and then I'm going to finish gluing our little black crow together, and that's going to be a fun detail that we could add there to the scarecrow arm. I'm thinking like on his left arm, about right here, and I almost did it at an angle a little bit. I just glued that on to his arm, and this is how he is looking. I think he's so cute. I did think that his sunflower was too small though for his hat. I wanted a little bit more of a punch, so I switched it out to a little bit larger sunflower, also the wired sunflowers from the Dollar Tree to finish it off, and I think he's perfect now. Let me give you a little preview of how our little scarecrow pumpkin stack turned out. Isn't he so sweet? He has so many fun details. All of the raffia straw, the little crow, the patches on his blue jeans, his plaid shirt. I had so much fun putting this one together, and I think he turned out pretty cute. What do you guys think about this one? For this fall DIY, I'm going to make a little pumpkin flower pot. So I'm going to start with one of these little terracotta pots from the Dollar Tree. These are the larger ones that come like in a 2-pack from the Dollar Tree. And then I found this great bowl filler at Dollar General for only $1. I love the colors. It's a perfect color of light green, orange, and ivory. And I decided to cover the entire flower pot in pumpkins. I thought that would be really fun. It would look very boutique. And at first I was going to paint them all the same color, but I love the variety of colors, so I'm going to leave them as is. I just hot glued a pumpkin here, pretty level to the bottom, and then I'm going to do orange, white, and then green. And I'm going to try to continue that pattern all the way around. The bottom here is the skinniest part, so I will be able to fit less pumpkins here than everywhere else, but I also want to do it in sort of a pattern if I can. So I went ahead and glued on a total of 4, and that looks like it covers about half, so I think I can get another 4. So I just kept repeating that pattern, green, white, orange, all the way around here, and just making sure that my hot glue set up really well before I let go of it. I'm kind of pointing all of the pumpkin stems down just for a little bit of uniformity. And there it is. We have a total of 8 pumpkins there on the bottom. We're going to continue building with the pumpkins all the way up. I do want it to look a little bit random, but also a little bit of a pattern. So when I go in for the next ones, I'm going to do the same pattern, but I'm going to go like one over here. So I'm going to go one over to the right for the green. And it is a little bit wider here. So I'm going to be able to fit more pumpkins on this row, but I do want to kind of keep that same pattern going. And I already messed it up because I went green, white, and I wanted green, orange. But that's okay. I caught it early enough. I was able to fix that. And again, I'm just hot gluing. This fits right underneath the ledge there of the top of the flower pot. It fits in there nicely. And I'm going to continue that pattern. I'm just putting them side by side now because I knew that I'd probably be able to fit at least one more pumpkin in this row, and I just keep going all the way around, filling that in with that same pattern. I think I ended up using 2.5 packages of the bowl filler from the Dollar Tree. And if you wanted to switch yours up to a different color, they do have different color varieties as well. But I really love like that mint green color for fall. I think it's really pretty. Now for the very top, I'm also going to do a row up here. Again, I just went one over to the right with the green, and then I'm just going to continue that pattern all the way around, gluing it all on. And this fit perfectly. 3 rows of pumpkins, all of the pumpkin stems pointing down. And again, a little bit of a pattern, at least here on the front there where I start. And where I end, it kind of messes up the pattern a little bit, but that's okay. That can just be the back of my flower pot. And I just kept gluing those all the way around. Isn't that so cute? I got the idea of this from like a boutique. They had like a pumpkin candle holder with pumpkins all over it. They were all the same color, but I thought a flower pot would be really fun for fall. So I just glued these all around my little pumpkin flower pot. I think it's looking so cute. I did notice that you could see the terracotta pot through the pumpkins, which looks fine, but I thought maybe I could take it up a notch and make it even more special for fall by adding a little bit of floral moss in between. It's going to give you that mossy feel, and I really like the brown floral moss for fall. I think it looks great for that. So any of the gaps that are kind of big like this one, I just added a little hot glue and added some of that brown floral moss down inside. And I think that really added to it too, especially since it's a flower pot. I think it's going to make it look really earthy. Any of the little cavities that were really small, I just put a little bit of floral moss in there. But any of the larger ones like that where you could really see the flower pot, I did add hot glue and then just put the moss down inside. And I'm just going to go around and try to fill up any of the little nooks and crannies that be between the pumpkins. Of course, because they're round, it's definitely going to have some little gaps like that. And I'm really glad I took that extra step on it because I think it made it look really cool. Now, if I were going to paint them all the same color, like with spray paint or something, like my inspiration candle holder, then I would not be including the moss or anything like that. But I really love the colors and the soft nature of the moss. We're also going to be filling up the flower pot with some faux fall florals from the Dollar Tree. You could also do a real plant in this one if you wanted to. It's got the hole drilled into the bottom there. And I think that looks pretty good. I do have a few more gaps here on the top. I just add a little bit of floral moss too, but I think that the flower pot is ready to go. Let me show you what it looks like so far. Isn't this so pretty? I really love how this is turning out. Now for the flowers inside, since they're faux floral, I do need to add a little bit of foam. I just took one of the square pieces from the Dollar Tree and just cut it down to size here so it will fit in there. Just using some of my scrap pieces to fill up the sides, and then we can fill this up with some florals. I also want to make sure that you can't see the foam, so I'm going to use that same brown floral moss that we used on the sides and just glue that on top of the moss to make that look nice as well, anywhere where you might not be able to see a flower. It's not a very big flower pot, so it's definitely not going to take a lot of florals, which is good because Dollar Tree is charging $1.75 for these now. So I was able to get away with only two. I picked up this like orange, reddish fall flower. I think it's so pretty. I'm just cutting them into individual pieces and adding them. I think they're fall hydrangeas. And then I also picked up these little green, I think these are hops. And I think that that is a fun variety. I'm just going to kind of mix those together. And I think I ended up using pretty much all of them to fill up the flower pot. I wanted it to look really full and not really compete with the pumpkins, but really kind of add to them. Same kind of color scheme, but definitely very fall coated. And this is how it turned out, our little pumpkin flower pot. I really love this. I have been wanting to make this DIY, and so I was really glad that I was able to make it for today's video. Let me show you how beautiful it turned out. I think those flowers are really pretty. And the pumpkins from Dollar General, I absolutely love them. See how nicely they're painted? They really don't need much. And I think they make a brilliant flower pot for fall. Isn't that just so pumpkin for fall? I love it. So let's get started with my coffee bar first. Check out this cool sign I got at Salvation Army the other day. They had 50% off the entire store on Labor Day. And so I got this for like $2.50. Really nice big board sign. And I'm going to try to create a custom coffee bar sign with this. I love the fact that it's slatted wood. It did cause me a little bit more work for this project than I initially thought, but we're going to make it work. The first thing I need to do is paint over all of the writing. Anytime you have a dark sign like this and it has white writing on it, you really have to mask that, because if you're going to decoupage over this, you're going to be able to read that through. So I just went over first with a very thin coat of white paint on all of the boards, trying to make sure that I didn't get any in the cracks between the boards. Then I went over it with a heavier coat here to start to mask this. My plan for this sign is to display it on my top shelf of my coffee bar. My coffee bar in my house, if you don't know, I just took 2 floating shelves from Target and I put it on a wall near my kitchen over an armoire that I DIY'd that I got at Goodwill. And I love it. It's my favorite place in the kitchen. And so I love to decorate it, but you could always use a lot of these ideas in your kitchen or wherever you want to decorate. Now I got that all painted, so this is what I'm going to decoupage it with. Fall napkins from Dollar General. They were $2. They have a very similar print one at Dollar Tree with just fall leaves. This one also had like acorns on it. I think it's really pretty. And then I designed this printable. How cute is this? A bear drinking a cup of coffee. And I also did it in a fall theme. I just printed mine out on cardstock, and I will share the free printable with you in the description of today's video. Now for the napkin, I need it to be 1 layer. I thought I was going to need 2 since it's such a big sign, but the napkins were actually really big once you unfolded them. And so I just have 1 layer. There is a little bit of writing on the napkin, so I made sure to put that at the bottom where it won't be on the sign. And I'm going to cover the entire board sign with a very thin coat of Mod Podge. You definitely don't want to do thick coats, especially when you're decoupaging something as delicate as a napkin. And so I just went over it just very thin, but I wanted it even all over the sign. And then I'm going to lay this on, overlapping the sides with my napkin. and making sure my hands were really dry. I'm just kind of smoothing that out. You can also use like a dry paper towel or like plastic wrap to kind of spread that out. You want to make sure that you get all of it glued down without any bubbles, but you also want to try to do it without tearing it if possible. It is very delicate. Then once I got that dry, I just went around all of the edges of my sign with a sanding sponge, and that gives you the perfect cut. You have to be pretty careful on this step too. Just take it easy, be very gentle with it. You don't want to rip any edges that you won't be able to repair. If you do rip it a little bit, you can always just Mod Podge it back down and it will be fine. And so I have it all on here. I'm going to go over the top of it with another very thin coat of Mod Podge. I often don't do the top part with Mod Podge, but I did do it on this sign just because I really wanted to be able to cut between all the board signs, and I wanted to make sure everything was good and attached and kind of dried on there. So I went over it with a very thin coat again. Some of it wanted to bubble up, but when I dried it, it did lay back down. And then this was kind of the tricky part of my DIY, was using my razor blade to cut between the board signs, because it's really hard to get the paper out in between. As you can see, the slatted board sign, the boards are really close together. So I think it was very important, especially on the decoupage step, to do that with this board sign. But if you had just a square sign that isn't a board sign like this, you wouldn't have to do this step, and that would be a lot easier. I found that if I cut it with my razor blade and then tried to glue it down into the crack with just my fingernail, like sliding that across, it did help. And also I use like that Cricut little weeder too, helped a little bit, but you have to be careful with that because again, that thin napkin can definitely tear. So I cut between all the board signs, and then I'm going to attach my bear. I printed this out. I think I printed it out at 97%. I will share the link to this. I had to print it out 97% because my printer doesn't do like edge to edge. But again, I just printed it out on cardstock, which is going to make it so much easier to decoupage on here, and it's going to not be see-through, so you won't be able to see the leaf pattern through it. And so I just cut it out with a pair of scissors. And I love him. He's so cute. He's looking straight at you, drinking a cup of coffee with some fall leaves. So I think he's going to be really fun on the top of my coffee bar for the fall. I found the cutest things at Dollar Tree that inspired me to do a woodland fall theme for my coffee bar, and I can't wait to show you all of those. Now, I decided to do the bear on different boards, cutting each piece. So I glued it on my first board, and then I cut it out with my razor blade. Now, I did this because I had cut all of the napkins, for the individual boards before. I thought it would look really cool to do that with the bear too. Kind of regret doing it because it was harder than I thought. Maybe if I would have cut the slices of the bear with my paper cutter, maybe I could have got some straighter lines. It might have been easier to cut. But I had a little tough time like getting the cuts perfect on this and making sure that I don't have like any paper trapped in between the boards. But I had already started it, so I'm going to continue that way. I just added Mod Podge, laid on my bear, and then cut here in between the boards with my razor blade, making sure everything was glued down. And I think he's so cute. He would look really cute on any kind of background if you wanted to DIY with him for your kitchen for fall. I wanted to do lots of different animals like bears, foxes, squirrels, that kind of thing for my coffee bar. And I also have a fall tier tray today. Haven't done a tier tray in a while. And so I definitely wanted to bring you a new fall tier tray as well. And we're going to do the same thing for it too, the same theme, because I'm going to display it in my kitchen. So I went all the way up. Every single board has a piece of the bear now. But again, I did have to kind of clean up some of the paper. Some of it didn't cut perfectly, like the area like right here underneath the bear's head. And so I do end up with like a little bit of area there that doesn't have any of the bear. So I'm going to have to touch that up a little bit because it was a little bit more distressed than I wanted. But I tried to trim the paper up the best that I could and make sure everything was glued down. So since it was brown, I just went in there with a little brown paint and tried to disguise this the best that I can right here. on the different boards. So that's one reason why I regretted doing it. I could have just left it all one piece. It would have been easier, but it didn't turn out pretty cute in the end. Now that I have it all cut and repaired, I'm going to seal the bear with some more Mod Podge here on top, trying to dry that. Once it dries, I was able to get rid of any of the bubbling in there and make sure that it lays flat. This is how it turned out, and this is how it looks on the top shelf of my coffee bar. I think he's so precious. What do you guys think about my little bear drinking coffee? Very fun. And I decided at first to lean it against the wall like that. I do end up hanging it. You will see here in a minute. But for right now, I started out with just a leaner sign here on the top. Okay, the next item for the coffee bar is just this little pumpkin in green that I got at Target Dollar Spot. It's nice and small, so I think it's going to work well in front of that sign. It's not going to block it, and it's going to go with my like green and orange color scheme that I'm doing on this coffee bar. So I just put it in front of my little bear sign. I also wanted something else small, and so I picked up one of these little fox ceramic figurines from the Dollar Tree. Isn't he so cute? He has a little mushroom. And so I displayed him with the bear sign as well. He's perfect. He doesn't need anything. All I have to do is display it here on my coffee bar shelf. And this is how it looks so far. About half of it filled up so far. And then I wanted to do a sign for at the other side. I picked up an 8x10 wood frame from the Dollar Tree and I designed another printable. This one says nuts about coffee and it has squirrels drinking coffee and gathering some acorns. I thought it was really fun, and I will share a link to that free printable as well down in the description of today's video. Now this sign is going to be so much easier because I'm using a Dollar Tree sign. I printed the image out on cardstock on 8x10 size, and that's what size you'll be able to download. And I picked up an 8x10 frame, so standard size. I don't have to do anything crazy. I really like to DIY my canvases by actually putting the artwork on top of the glass. It's a perfect smooth surface, and it cuts down the extra step that I would need to do to make a background for this sign. I want it to look like a piece of art, and the size was perfect. The 8x10 cut out perfect, and so I just cut that down, and now I can attach that to the glass. Then I can put the glass back in the frame. It's such an easy way to do a seasonal sign. I'm just going to take some Mod Podge here on the glass, and I am just going to spread that out evenly on the whole thing. Definitely the easiest way that I make a sign on my channel for sure. I've made so many signs like this, and the artwork that you get a canvas look looks so much better than the glass on top of the image. That's why I do it this way. So I just laid my cardstock piece on there, and that's about coffee. I love this image, so fun. And then I am going to seal it on the top. You don't really have to wait for it to dry when you use cardstock, which is one reason why I use that. And I just went over it with a couple of coats, and I'm just going side to side so I still get the brush strokes in there. And that's what gives you that canvas art look when you go to frame it. So let's go ahead and put this all back together. I thought about staining this wood frame, but I realized it's really sealed, so I think I'll just leave it the natural wood it is. I'm just going to go ahead and pop the glass back in there like that, and then add the back. It does have a hanger on it, and I do need that to hang it on my wall, so I just put this back together, and I told you this one was going to be easy. Our little nuts about coffee artwork. I love those little squirrels. We have the tamest squirrels on Memorial Island near me, where they will come up on your shoe and beg you for some peanuts. And they are not scared of people at all. I think they're so adorable. And holding a cup of coffee is perfect for my coffee bar. I hung it on the wall, which is kind of high compared to the bear. So that's one reason why I'm going to move the bear here in a minute. Now, this is one of the finds that I found at Dollar Tree that I was so excited about. Near the kitchen aisle of my largest Dollar Tree, they had this woodland fall animal section. Coffee cups, plates, all kinds of fun things. And so I picked up 3 of the plates with 3 different animals. We're going to use 2 of them on the coffee bar because I didn't want the whole thing just to be plates. And then I got these great little plate holders on Amazon. I did add these to my Amazon shopping list, linked in the description of the video if you need some of these. I thought they were perfect for these, and this is what it looks like. Next to the little squirrel sign, we have a little hedgehog plate display, and I love the green on it. I think it's really pretty and goes really great with the DIYs we've made so far. The next item I found at Dollar General. It's a large size pumpkin. Looks like wood. It was $3 at Dollar General. I think it was supposed to be on sale, but their sales confuse me there. But it looks like it's wood and it has felt on the top of it and orange. I think the colors are perfect. It doesn't need anything. It's ready to go. And I love the larger size of this. So I'm going to put this on the top shelf there next to our little hedgehog plate to finish off that shelf. So this is what it looks like so far. I think it's looking really cute. For the next DIY, this is also from the Dollar Tree. These are the placemats. I'm going to make a little pennant banner with this. I thought that'd be really cute. They have 2 different kinds of placemats in this line. I was so excited to find this at my Dollar Tree the other day. I was kind of surprised they got it in kind of late, a lot later than the other fall thing. So if your store doesn't have it yet, you might keep checking because, again, first time I've seen this stuff. I'm just going to cut the front off of the placemat so I'll have this great fabric with different fall animals on here that I can use to make a little pennant banner. I'm just going to do like little triangles. And so I'm going to cut down like a stencil just with some cardboard that I had in my recycling here. I just use a straight edge to, trace this out. And then I can cut that down to size and make a stencil so I can cut down some perfect triangles here for the pennant banner. I want to try to make sure that I include like a different animal in each one. Since the print is kind of all scattered out, I definitely wanted the animals to be the star of the show. So I'm going to lay it on top of the fox and just use a pencil to sketch this out. Something really easy, and I won't have to worry about cutting marker off or anything like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing here with a little hedgehog. Over here we have a raccoon. I like to work odd numbers with my pennant banner, and so I want to do a total of 5 of them. There was only 4 animals though, so I'm going to have to do one animal twice. I will just do the hedgehogs twice. So I drew those all on there, and now I can cut these out. What I did was I cut out the triangle, but I'm also going to leave a little flap on here. So I'm going to cut it the opposite way like this, so I can hide it behind that when I fold that over my twine to make a really easy no-sew banner. And so I just went ahead and cut all of my pieces out this way. It was really easy. I love this fabric. I picked up a bunch of these placemats. I didn't have enough for a full set for my table, so hopefully I need to go back to another Dollar Tree. I might go to the next town over. They have a large Dollar Tree there too, and see if they have more, because I would really like these to, I would like 2 more so I can have a set of 4 for my kitchen table. But they work great for other projects like this. And so I am just cutting these all out. I'm gonna have to do like the hedgehogs like on different sides since I am repeating that animal. But I'm glad that I kind of targeted the animals like this because I think it made the pennant banner so much cuter. And even though I didn't draw that little flap, I remembered to cut it on all of mine so that I can attach that really easily to my twine. So I just flipped them over in the layout that I want. I found the center of my twine. I had measured that. That's how big one of my shelves are. And I'm going to put this on that top shelf that we just decorated. I just used a bead of hot glue to glue the twine on, and then another bead of hot glue, and I can like layer this little flap over the top of it. It's going to give me a nice clean edge and no sewing involved. So I love that. My mother was a seamstress, which is a funny story because I cannot stand to sew. I do have a sewing machine, but I only use it when I absolutely have to, which I do. My son is in college. He's still having his mom make his Halloween costumes. So I'm going to have to break that out soon. He's got some crazy ideas for a costume. So I am going to hot glue these out. I'm not really measuring them because I'm doing them so close together. And I just skip a little area of the twine, add the next pennant banner, and I tried to keep everything centered, by starting in the middle. And I have 2 more to attach here. I usually just attach my pennant banner to my coffee bar shelf by hot gluing each one of the twine pieces on each side of the shelf Just the easiest way without having to put nails or screws into my wooden shelves. I want to keep them as nice as possible. So here it is, our little pennant banner. So fun. You could also do this on a tier tray as well. But this is how it turned out. I have it hanging on my shelf with all of these cute little woodland fall animals. And I love like the neutral colors. I think it goes really well. I tried to do a lot of green and orange on this coffee bar today. And I think it looks really good finishing off this shelf. But then I thought that my bear sign was a little bit too low, so I did move it up to the wall, as you can see there, and hung it on the wall so it's a little bit more balanced with the squirrel sign. But that opened up a little bit of room. So I picked up one of the fall fairy garden pumpkins with a little raccoon on the front, and it's orange, and I thought that would look really cute up on the top shelf as well. So I added that. Look how cute he is. He's holding a pumpkin. My stores just got these in as well. I hadn't seen the fall fairy garden stuff at all, but I love it. So that is the top shelf of the coffee bar. Now, moving down to the bottom shelf, here is another one of the plates I found from the Dollar Tree. This one is a raccoon. So cute. I'm going to also use one of those little plastic acrylic plate holders that I found on Amazon. I found them to be a little bit easier to work with than the ones from the Dollar Tree, but you could use the ones from the Dollar Tree too, or whatever kind of plate holders you have. You could even hang them on the wall with like a plate hanger. They're so cute. Look how cute he is with his little mask. He's like a little bandit. So I put him here on the bottom shelf to start this off. And I think he's really sweet. I'm going to put him over here on the left side of the shelf. And we can start decorating this shelf as well. For the next item for this shelf, I'm going to add a little squirrel that I got at the Dollar Tree. Look how cute he is. He's holding a little acorn, and I think he will look really cute here next to the raccoon on this shelf. I don't really have to do anything to him. He is perfect and ready to go. I love those little animals from the fall section at the Dollar Tree. The next thing I wanted to do was I wanted to make like a fall leaf display, like with a vase. So I have one of these little milk jugs from the Dollar Tree that I had previously DIY'd, I think for Valentine's Day. I just cut the ribbon off of it, and I'm going to leave it white and just add a window cling from the fall section at Dollar Tree. I have one of some little mushrooms left over, so I'm going to add that to the milk jug just to customize that with a thin coat of Mod Podge, and then I lay the window cling on top. So easy. I seal it with another coat of Mod Podge on top, and now I have a really cute little vase, and like the little milk jug theme kind of like goes with the coffee bar theme as well. And then I'm going to add this fall leaf floral that has like a little acorn on it that I got at the Dollar Tree. I think it's so cute. I decided it was too tall, and so I cut mine down into individual pieces. And for some reason, I can't find my wire cutter, but if you get the little pet nail clippers like that from the Dollar Tree, they work great for these wired things as well. But I ended up cutting it a little bit shorter than I thought. And so I'm going to fill this up with just some Dollar Tree sand. So I have something I can add these to, and I can kind of boost it up a little bit taller, because I didn't mean to make it quite that short, but I love the colors of these, and I love that acorn in there. So cute. I think it needs to be a little bit higher, so I added some more sand, and that is one of the craft funnels from the Crafter Square at Dollar Tree. It works great when you need to add sand to a vase with like a skinnier like lid like that. And I'm just going to add all of the pieces in here, kind of arrange it till I'm happy with it. And so easy. It's got the little mushroom on the front. Very simple DIY for my coffee bar. And look how shiny that little acorn is. I think it's so cute. So I'm going to put this right here in the center of this tray. I kind of had a little area on my wall, my like removable wallpaper back there that had a little tear in it. So I definitely wanted to make sure they were tall enough to cover that. But this is how it turned out. I think the little mushrooms on there are such a fun touch. And this shelf is really coming along nicely. The next item I wanted to add was one of these little felted mushrooms I got at Dollar Tree. It has light green color, so it's perfect. It was a fall section, so I'm assuming $1.50 now. And I did want to paint it to make it look like wood because I thought that looked really good on the one that I got from Dollar General. So I went over it first, the stem of the mushroom and the underside of it where it doesn't have the felt on there with this tan color, which is Beachcomber's Beige by Apple Barrel. And once I get it that color, it's very similar to the wood tone on the other mushroom. I'm going to distress it with some Antique Wax by Waverly. I'm using a little chippy brush that I got on Amazon. It went on a little thick at first, but I'm just going to use a baby wipe to kind of blend that, thin that out, and kind of spread that around. And I'm going to go over it and distress it until I'm happy with it. I have a little bit less on there now, and that seemed to work a little bit better. And then I kind of switched to a paper towel because I don't want to remove too much of it, but I want that great wood grain because it already had that great texture on there. But now that it's painted to look like wood, I think it's really special. The green felt on the top of the mushroom is really pretty. It goes really well with that green, those green plates with the fall animals. And I do have a third plate that I'm going to use on the tier tray up next. So this is how it turned out. One of the Dollar Tree little Felton mushrooms. They have so many mushroom items at the Dollar Tree this fall. I love that theme for fall. It goes great with the woodland animals. This is the other placemat they have from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to customize one of their bamboo cutting boards with it. They have made these larger if you've bought these in the past. As you can see, it is a nice size now. This one says, "Life is better with friends." A lot of this is just that plain ivory. So I'm really going to concentrate on just the image. And I thought that would be fun to add that to the front of the cutting board since this is in my kitchen. So I just cut out the front of the placemat and I'm going to try to line this up a little bit here. It looks like I will have to cut off like maybe a couple tails to get this to work. And I just laid the cutting board on top of it and traced that out with a pencil so I could cut that down to size. And I just cut it out and kind of round the corners. I do want a little bit of the wood to show through, but I will just have to cut it down a little bit more once I add it to my cutting board. So it's also a little off-centered with how I cut it, so that worked out well. I was able to even it out a little bit because the tails were not quite even. As you can see, the squirrel had a larger tail kind of going off to the left, but that's okay because I wanted some of the bamboo to show anyway. So I am just going to cut two edges of it a little bit shorter so I have a little border around it so you can still see that bamboo cutting board kind of peeking out from the back. And then I'm just going to use this as like a leaner sign, leaning against my wall. And whenever I can do like a kitchen item on a coffee bar, I love that. I think that looks really good. So I just kind of trimmed this up till I was happy with it. I want just that thin border. And again, this is not a cutting board that I'm going to use. It's just going to be for decor. I just added Mod Podge, and since I was doing fabric, I did a really thick coat, kind of saturated the entire fabric with this to make sure that this stays put, and laid the fabric on there and went over and just made sure that everything was down, kind of soaking the fabric with the Mod Podge and using a paper towel to make sure that it's flat, no air bubbles in there. And I think it turned out really cute. Life is better with friends, little fall woodland animals, a fun way to use that placemat from the Dollar Tree. And I just leaned it here on the wall next to like the fall leaves there in the vase. Lots of cute little animals on there, and I love the saying. A really quick, easy way to make a sign too for your kitchen or your coffee bar. So this is what it looks like so far. I do have room for one more thing, I think, and I picked up one of the orange pumpkin coffee mugs from the Dollar Tree. I thought that would be perfect. I don't need this for my coffee cup bar because I found those great woodland animals. So I'm just going to use it for decor. I have found that the foam cones from the Dollar Tree work great if you want to fill up a coffee cup to use it for a decor project. So I just cut it in half and pop that in there. It fills up almost the entire cup. And then I'm just going to take some reindeer moss to cover up my foam. And I found some great greenery at the Dollar Tree that I thought looked kind of like scrubland. And I'm going to use that to make kind of a forest floor look here. in the orange pumpkin mug. I found some great mushrooms at Dollar General, a little mushroom pick, and I thought that that would look really cute growing out of my little pumpkin mug as well. So I just cut these little individual pieces of greenery down, putting that in my foam. Look how cute these were from Dollar General, only $1. I really love the fact that Dollar General still has items for $8. Sometimes they're not cheaper. I recently got a skull candy dish that was cheaper at Dollar Tree. So you do have to keep your eye on them, but on a lot of items, they are cheaper. And so I'm just going to add the mushrooms, and I'm going to add a little bit more greenery here. I want it to look really full with the greenery, but kind of have those red and white mushrooms be the star of the show. I don't want it to be too tall, so I do make some of the pieces maybe a little bit deeper down here into the foam so you can really see those mushrooms. And this DIY was so easy, and it gives me a fun little plant on my coffee bar as well. Let me show you how this turned out. Isn't that so cute with the little mushrooms in there? I displayed this here next to my cutting board DIY, and it really finished off the bottom shelf of my coffee bar. Isn't that mug adorable? I absolutely love it. I got it to actually drink with, but then I found the other mug, so I'm going to use that for decor. And this shelf is all filled in. I do want to do like a wood bead garland for this. And I found this great wood bead garland at Dollar Tree the other day. It has mushrooms on it. I didn't really like the design though, with the mushrooms being sideways like that. So I'm going to DIY my own. So I'm going to go ahead and use everything from it. I just cut it down to the proper length for my shelf. And I just went ahead and removed the excess twine, untied it, and I'm going to remove everything from this and do my own little wood bead garland using some of these wooden ornaments from the Dollar Tree. I picked up a 3-pack so I can do 3 different animals, and I'm just going to use window clings from the Dollar Tree to make some really cute little woodland fall animals that I can hang from the wood bead garland. Now, I don't have a lot of room on the wood slices, but I definitely have enough room for their heads. So that's all I'm going to attach. I just picked out this cute little fox here. He should be pretty easy to cut out just his head. Pretty easy shape. I just use my scissors to cut around him. And usually the window clings from the Dollar Tree have like a clear background. This one actually had a bright yellow for some reason. And so I do have to cut the yellow part off too, because that's not going to look very good. So I just went all the way around the little fox face and head here and cut all the excess material off. And then we can add it to a little wood slice there to make a really cute ornament for the wood bead garland. The next animal I'm going to do is this squirrel. They had a couple different squirrels on here. This one was a little bit less cartoon looking than the other one. Again, I'm just going to do its head. It had some like little furry ears, but I thought that would be too hard to cut out. So I'm just going to cut out like the pointy ears here because this one had that yellow background as well. So I had to cut around that. They have a couple different window clings from the Dollar Tree with the fall animals. So you can kind of experiment with this and use one that you like. I think that looks really cute. And for the third animal, let's do this cute little hedgehog over here. I will be able to put like some of his spines in here, so I kind of see what's going to fit, and then just kind of cut around that, again, cutting off all of the excess yellow material. If it were clear, I probably wouldn't have to cut these out as much, but it still might make it look better not to have that. I'm going to use Mod Podge to attach those to the wood slices, and I use that matte finish Mod Podge from the Dollar Tree, so it will really help take all the shininess away from this that the window clings have, because I don't want them to be super shiny. So I just went over the wood slice with some Mod Podge. I did find that the wood slice really kind of soaked that up, so I had to use a little bit more of the Mod Podge than I thought I would. So I put another coat on there, thicker this time, and started adding my little fall critters here, the squirrel, the fox, and the hedgehog on these. Just making sure they have holes drilled in them, so I'm just making sure that was up. And I just went ahead and Mod Podge these all on here. I'm also going to Mod Podge over the top of them, again, to take away that glossy sheen. And a couple coats of the matte finish Mod Podge really helps. If you do it like I was doing, the kind of slide around a little bit because I didn't really wait for it to dry too much. But I'm just going to go ahead and get these going so that we can string our wood bead garland and design this the way that I want it. I'm going to remove all of the wood beads from that garland and reuse them because I also want to use those mushrooms too. I think those are really cute, and I think we'll be able to use those as ornaments on this wood bead garland as well. So a couple of coats, as you can see, the shininess definitely goes away with that matte finish Mod Podge, and these will be ready to add to the wood bead garland. Mine were a little bit furry, so I did sand them down a little bit to clean them up. And then I just removed all of the wood beads from the garland so I can kind of do my own thing. If you put a little hot glue on the end of your twine, it's going to make your life so much easier to string those wood beads. And then the little wood slices actually come with twine that work perfectly. It's nice and thin. It's a little bit thinner than the one that I normally use from Dollar Tree. And I'm going to go ahead and string these all on so I can tie these on as I go. This twine is the right size for my shelf. And I just tied a couple knots here on the end just so my wood beads would not fall off. And I am going to start stringing this. I thought we could do like 5 of the natural wood, and then we could do like 1 of the orange and kind of repeat that pattern. So I'm going to do another 5 of the natural, but this time instead of the orange bead, I'm going to do 1 of these wood slice ornaments. I just tied it 2 times here, and then I'm going to tie that actually here in between the wood beads by just knotting that here on there and cutting off the excess twine. And they fit really well. The wood beads are not too large, and so they didn't really get in the way here. I can put them pretty tightly with the wood beads. And so I strung 5 more of the natural beads, 1 of the orange, another 5 of the natural, and then we can do another 1 of the ornaments. Again, I always like to use odd numbers like 3 or 5 or something like that when I'm making like a pennant banner or something like that. I think it just looks better. And that is about halfway, so I think this is going to work out perfectly. I do want to use those mushrooms you'll see here at the end. And I'm just going to keep repeating that pattern, 5, 1, 5, and then the other ornament, tying this on. And this was such an easy way to make the little wood bead garland with the woodland fall animals without having to use a printer or anything like that. Window clings from the Dollar Tree can be really fun to craft with. So I have these all strung on here. I went ahead and tied it off, and then I realized, oh, I haven't added my mushrooms yet. So I'm going to go ahead and untie that because I did want to use the mushrooms, but instead of sideways like they came, I want them to hang upright. I think that will look way better, and you can really do that with just twine. So I'm going to go in here with a piece of twine, string that in from the top, and then I'm just going to knot that here on the bottom so it will hang down, and I can use that 1 piece of twine to tie that off. So here, instead of 1 of the wood slices, I'm going to tie on the cute little mushroom. And I just double knot that and cut off the excess here. I have a room for maybe just a few wood beads on the side of it. I do want it to be as full as possible. I think 2 will work. That looks cute, so I'm going to do the same thing here with the other side. I thought about alternating like wood slice, mushroom, wood slice, mushroom, but the sides, I don't have a lot of room, and so I think the tiny mushrooms will fit better on the sides and kind of be like little caps here on the side. So I tied that one on to the other side and added 2 beads to this one as well. I didn't really like the fact that the orange was a lot darker color than the wood beads, and so I'm going to go over mine here with a little orange paint. This is pumpkin, and I just went over it with a thin coat. And that way my polka dots are like a lighter color of orange, which I'm fine with, but it toned down the orange and made it match the wood beads way better. So I went ahead and attached it here to my bottom shelf, a little bit of hot glue on each side, and this is how my little wood slice wood bead garland turned out. I think it's really cute. What do you guys think? I like the redesign that I made with it, and I put this here on the bottom shelf that we decorated. And I think it looks really cute together. What do you guys think about this? The next item, check out the coffee mugs from the Dollar Tree. So cute. The raccoon, the squirrel, the hedgehog. I think that's all the animals. That's all I could find. These are going to be great for fall. I can hang them on my coffee cup bar, which is underneath that bottom shelf. So I can use these for fall, so seasonal and fun. I also have a lot of coffee cups in my kitchen too. I have a whole wall of them because I have quite the Ray Dunn collection of mugs, but I think these will be fun for some pumpkin spice lattes this fall. Aren't they cute? I love them. I have 3 hooks there on my little bar, and they hang really nicely here underneath the wood bead garland and more fun fall critters. These were the last items for the fall critter coffee bar, and I'm going to show you how it all turned out and looks together. This is how that bottom shelf turned out with the little coffee mugs. And don't forget, we also have a fall tier tray DIY in this video as well. But I love all of the custom fall signs combined together with those cute little plates from the Dollar Tree and that great fabric as well. So many fun finds, and I really love the coffee mugs as well. This is how it all looks above my coffee maker. I think it turned out really fun. This was such a fun theme to do for fall, and this is how it all looks together. For this DIY, I wanted to see if I could take one of the bicycle wreaths from the Dollar Tree and try to make it look like an old wagon wheel. Now I need something for the wheel part, and I didn't have anything wood that would make a good wheel here. So I'm actually going to use one of these placemats that I got on clearance at Target. And as you can see, there is like a little seam here on the back where it is 2 layers and it is sewn, and it is the perfect size for this wreath form. So I just went in and cut it. It's like a seagrass material, and I thought I could always stain this just like I do the wood as well. And it actually worked out pretty well there for the wheel, because it's often hard to find something to make the wheel with out of these bicycle wreath forms. They can be a little bit challenging. It did have a little bit of a rough edge, but I think that'll be okay. I did trim it up a little bit to make it look cleaner, but it's the perfect size. A little placemat charger here to do that. I know they also have different varieties of these at Dollar General as well that could work as well. For the center, I'm going to use the little wood square from the Dollar Tree. And for the spokes, I'm going to use popsicle sticks. That wood circle I got in the little wood circle 3-packs they have at Crafter Square, where they have 3 different sizes of circles. And then I'm going to use a popsicle stick here for each one of the spokes. I'm going to hot glue this down. So this one is going to be, they're just long enough to be able to reach from one to the other, but I don't want them to overlap. So I did the first one a little taller towards a circle, and I did the ones next to it going down a little bit, so that I kept that alternating pattern where I kind of did one about halfway, and then I did one touching the outside rim so that they wouldn't overlap as I hot glue those all the way around. I thought popsicle sticks would be perfect for this. It's going to give me that wood look that I wanted for my old wagon wheel. I do want to make sure that they stay attached though. So I also went ahead and added more hot glue to both sides of the wire on the back of it to reinforce this to make it a little bit more solid. And I think that it looks way better than just the wire spokes from the bicycle wreath. So this is what it looks like so far. I'm going to add the little wood circle in the middle like that. And it barely covers up the end of the popsicle sticks. And then I also have the outer edge of the wheel that we're going to be using that great material. I wanted to make a wagon wheel wreath with this, and so I think that that material will be great. I just hot glued the wood circle here in the middle. And then I'm also going to go ahead and add this. I'm going to stain everything to give it a warmer color. And I was really impressed with this material of the placemat. It stained really well, just like the wood. And so it worked out just how I had envisioned. I just hot glued the mat all the way around. At first, I was going to use some of the adhesive cork from the Dollar Tree for the outer part of the tire, but my Cricut decided to really act up, and it did not cut it properly, and so I had to find something else to use for this material. But that's another option. And then I just went in with some antique wax by Waverly that I mixed together with water. I wasn't sure how much stain this would take. I did find that the placemat stained a little bit lighter than the wood did. And so I did have to darken it up a little bit because it looks dark now, but when it started to dry, it got a little bit lighter. So I added a little bit more antique wax by Waverly to the water to make it a little bit darker stain, and I went over all of the popsicle sticks and the wood circle in the middle. I started drying it and noticed that the placemat was drying a little bit lighter than I would like. So I'm going to go in with that darker brown color that we mixed together with the antique wax by Waverly and go over it with another coat here on the outer edge. It's not a perfect circle, but it's pretty close, and I think it does look like a wagon wheel in the end. I really love how this turned out. I'm going to reinforce the outer ring here by adding more hot glue to the wire here to just make the glue a little bit stronger to make sure everything stays in place, since I can kind of get to the back of it very easily as well. And here is our little wagon wheel. We just need to decorate it now. I'm going to make a hanger with some twine. I just tie this around, and I knot it first because I noticed that it kind of wanted to pull in that like caning material a little bit, and I didn't want it to do too much. So I also secured it with a little hot glue here on the back, so that would make that hanger a little bit stronger without destroying our tire there. And then for the screws, I found these stickers from the Dollar Tree that look like little metal screws. I thought these would be perfect. We can have these little bolts going around our little wagon wheel. They are stickers, but I decided to hot glue them on to make them a little bit stronger. And I think I will skip 3 with the larger one because there's not a lot of those. And then there is like a medium size one too that I can alternate with. And just a fun idea, you could also use like the little button stickers from the Dollar Tree if you wanted to paint those as well. And now it's time to decorate our wreath. I wanted to do very traditional colors, fall leaves, pumpkins, flowers. This is a bundle of fall leaves that I got from the Dollar Tree that has really pretty colors. They have the orange and red, but they also have like this goldish and green material. And so I just went ahead and removed all of them from a bunch here. And I'm going to decorate like the bottom left corner of this wreath. I decided it would look a little bit better if they were just individual leaves, so I actually just cut them down to size. And if you find that your leaves from the Dollar Tree are all bent up, it's really easy to give them a quick iron. If you have a blow dryer or a heat gun like I do, you can make them flatten out pretty well. I noticed the yellow one kind of had a square cutout that didn't get any red paint on all of mine. And so I'm going to kind of put those on the bottom where I could overlap another leaf on top of it like that to kind of hide that little imperfection in the pattern. But what I wanted to do was just use all these colors. I think they're so pretty. And I'm just hot gluing them around to make it look like a pile of leaves for the first effect. I'm either gluing them to the popsicle sticks or to the placemat that's there on the outer edge. And I just kind of scatter those around until I'm happy with it. Again, my yellow and red ones, I did have to kind of hide that spot on all of them so that you couldn't see it. I don't know why they were painted like that. They must have not went through the machine properly when they were manufacturing those. For fall flowers, I found these great little orange flowers from the Dollar Tree. They're like little tiny mums, and the colors are perfect. I'm just going to cut them down a little bit, the little stem, and just hot glue those into the leaves. I want them kind of poking out of the leaves every now and then. I think they're really pretty though, so I'm going to try to add as many of these as I can. The colors match so well with those fall leaves, and it was really the look I was going for with this fall wreath. Little wagon wheel wreath. I think it's so fun. And I was checking online for inspiration, and I couldn't find anybody that had really made a good wagon wheel wreath from using the bike wreath form from the Dollar Tree. Most people just leave it with the wire outer rim, but I thought it definitely needed something larger because a wagon wheel is definitely going to have the wheel part of it too. And the placemat worked really well for that. I decided to add a few more fall leaves here to that to make it a little bit wider, the display, but really trying to stick to that one corner. These fall leaves have some fall berries on them that I thought would be really cute too. So I'm going to glue those into the fall leaves as well, just kind of scattering them out, different size bunches. Sometimes these really get scuffed up, so make sure you look at these before you buy them at Dollar Tree, especially with their floral prices being higher. For the pumpkins, I'm going to use these bowl fillers that I found at Dollar General. These are only $1, and look how well they're painted. The colors are perfect. I'm going to glue it orange, kind of a golden color here. And I thought about the green pumpkin, but I didn't think that really matched that well. So I think I'll use another one of the golden pumpkins here and attach a total of 3. Now to make it look like a wagon wheel, I'm going to use 2 of the little wood rings from the Dollar Tree to make like a little, I don't even know what they call that, like a little place for the axle of the wheel. And I had 2 different sizes, so I thought that would work well. I'm just going to paint them black. I think that would be a good color for this. A little bit of contrast, but it's going to make the middle of it look not so plain and more like the wagon wheel I was going for. Since it's kind of rounded, I went ahead and painted both sides of these to make sure that you can't see any of the raw wood there in the end. And I'm also going to do the little bolts here on the wagon wheel. I'm going to paint them black as well to kind of make them correspond. Once everything was dry, I just hot glued these on. I did the larger ring first here, and then I'm going to glue the other ring right inside of it. If you only have one, I think that does add a fun touch, but if you have two different sizes like this, I definitely recommend adding both because it gives you a really fun effect there for the wagon wheel. And here it is, our wagon wheel wreath for fall. I think it's really whimsical and fun. It could be a really fun wall hanging for fall, or you could use it as a wreath for your front door. It's definitely pretty enough with all of the fall florals. They all go so nicely together, and I really love those little pumpkins from Dollar General. I love that they're only $1. But this is how this one turned out. For this Dollar Tree DIY, I'm going to use some of the rose gold Rust-Oleum spray paint and 2 of the wire wreath forms from the Dollar Tree. This isn't the really large one that they have. It is, I think these are the 15-inch ones. And I need 2 because I'm going to make a cage. And I wanted it to be a fun fall color instead of just black. So I spray painted mine with that rose gold metallic spray paint. I really have been enjoying that color for fall. I think it's really pretty. For this one, I really only need the front of it painted. So I just made sure that you couldn't see any of the black coming through. And then for the other one, it's going to be the bottom of my cage. So I put it in here at first, upside down, and spray the underside of it, that rose gold material. And then since it's going to be hanging on my front door, I thought you might be able to see like the sides of it like that. So I think I'm going to have to paint at least some of the back because I don't want it to look like it's two-tone. So I just flipped it over and at least did the outside edges there of the rose gold. And I think that looks pretty good. I got pretty good coverage on that. And I just set those aside and let those dry. Those look really pretty like that. Now for the background of my wreath, I'm going to use fall leaves. These are the leather fall leaves from the Dollar Tree. I have some of the oak leaves. I also have some of the maple leaves. And I'm just cutting the stem off of them just because I didn't really like the way the plastic stem looked on them. These are the maple leaves. These are definitely larger. I'm going to kind of sit them at an angle. And I'm going to alternate between the two to fill this up to be a great backdrop. Now, if you don't have the leather leaves, you could always use like the faux leaves from the Dollar Tree. The burlap leaves, depending, like the oak leaves might work, but the maple leaves might be too big. Now for the pumpkins themselves, I found these little muted pumpkin clips from the Dollar Tree with the perfect colors that I wanted to do for this decor. The muted orange, the muted green, and the ivory. They do have the little clips on the bottom. I wish they didn't, but I don't really want them. So I just pull the clips off the bottom, and I'm going to repeat a pattern all the way around, going orange, white, green. And I was really pleased that I picked up exactly almost enough of these that I needed. And I definitely wanted to do like something similar to like the Easter egg wreath that I've done on my channel, but with pumpkins. So I thought this would work really well for a cage. And I am just going to repeat that pattern all the way around, and then I'm going to show you how I put the whole thing together. This was a really simple fall wreath. I know a lot of you guys say that you struggle with fall wreaths, and I try to do a lot of non-traditional wreaths like this because I really don't like the deco mesh wreaths and stuff like that. They are definitely challenging to make. Now, I noticed that I needed the pumpkin stem to kind of be in between the middle bars to make everything kind of sit properly. So I just kind of moved everything around, making sure all my pumpkin stems were where they needed to be. And that way the cage sat flat against it. But I want to clamp it all together like this so everything stays in place and everything is evenly spaced like that. So I'm going to go in with the little tiny zip ties from the Dollar Tree, and I just lined up my crossbars over here on the side, and I'm going to simply zip tie that tight, and that just really clamps everything together inside the wreath. I'm going to do it here and here on the outside, and then up here at the top as well. The clear zip ties are really easy to blend in, and I also have a plan to kind of cover some of that stuff up as we add a little bit more decor to this. But I definitely want it to be tight, so I went around the outside, and then the same exact place that I went on the outside, then I also went on the inside and zip tied the inside of the wreath form together as well. And as you can see, this is turning out really cute. I love the colors for fall. Very colorful, but yet kind of muted, with the brown leather leaves back there too. Provides another fun color. And I like the variety of the leaves too. I think that really kind of adds to it. And this is the ribbon that I'm going to use. Isn't this so pretty? I found this at Dollar Tree. I don't know if I've ever seen this one before. It's like a burlap with like a very light muted orange pumpkin on it. And I'm going to cut 3 pieces down that are long enough to go around the wreath form. And everywhere where I zip tied, I am going to go around with the ribbon. This is going to help hold it together, and it's going to be decorative. So I just glued that to the back of the wreath form and then glued it to itself like that. Kind of similar to like if you're making like a life buoy or something like that, you would do it. This is going to be a very top piece. So I went ahead and did the pumpkins upright, and then I'm going to have another one here. This is also going to kind of be the top. And I wanted to leave the very top of it open so I could hang something in between, and I could also do a hanger without these things getting in the way. And this is going to be the third one down here. So again, I just glue it all down, and it's for directionality. I just kind of kept all of the pumpkins as upright as I could keep them with this plan. And I don't really need the pumpkins underneath the ribbon. They can slightly go underneath there, but I definitely want you to be able to see most of them. So I just kind of spaced them out a little bit and added the remaining ribbon to our wreath form. This is what I want to hang down in the middle. This great wall decor from Dollar Tree. The color is perfect. It is this mint green, like fall leaf color. So pretty. I just cut the tassel off the end. I'm going to leave the hanger on it and use that twine to hang it. I like the little wood beads that are on there. They're perfect for our color scheme. And I won't have to add a hanger to this. I can just use this. It is looped. I will show you how I went about adding it to it. I didn't really tie it. I did add a staple there at the top just to make sure that it hung straight. And I'm going to tie it right there at the very center of the top. Well, actually, I'm going to glue it on, I guess. I just trying to see exactly where I need it to be because I want it to hang down like right in the center. And I think I've got this spacing. So what I did is I just went into the wire wreath form like this. I'm going to wrap this around here where I have a crossbar so it won't go anywhere. And then instead of tying it, I just pulled the loop down and hot glued the twine to itself here on the back and have it hang down just like that. They also have the little pumpkins like that, would be really cute. I went back and forth which one I wanted to use, but I really liked that green leaf, so I decided to go with that. Then I'm also going to need a hanger for the top of my wreath, so I just put some twine here in on the top. And then I am going to loop that through and tie that just into a knot to make a very simple little wreath hanger up here. Nothing that's really going to take away from it, only going to add to it. And Isn't this so cute? I thought this was such a fun fall wreath. Let me give you a closer view of how it turned out. Isn't it pretty with all of those fun fall colors? And I think that that pumpkin ribbon is so pretty. I really love that. I can't wait to craft with that some more. But I really love how all of those colors work well together. You still have the colors, but I love the muted. You know, you're not really going with that bright color for fall. For this DIY, I'm using 2 pumpkins. Those are also from Walmart. Those came with my orange ones. And 2 of the LED taper candles from the Dollar Tree. I've never used these before. They're battery operated candles. So I thought that would be safer using some foam pumpkins from the Dollar Tree. But I wanted to do some candlesticks for my dining table for fall. I'm going to take these 2 pumpkins. You could also use pumpkins from the Dollar Tree. They have ones that are very similar size. These just came in the big packages of pumpkins that I got. And I am going to put some batteries in these. They take 2 of the AAA batteries and they turn on and they flicker, which is really cool. So I'm going to try to incorporate that into my design for candle holders, that I'm going to need to turn them on, because I don't want to have to take the candles out to turn them on and off. And so I think that that will work well. Now, these are the pumpkins, and I kind of tried to use a pen to put some indentations where the opening needs to be, and it's really just the very top of these pumpkins. It worked out really well. So I just took a razor blade and I cut a circle here at the top, and I'm going to cut out just a small little opening here to add our candles down in there. So I want it to be very snug though. The snugness is important because that's going to turn the light on and off when I turn it and turn it off like that. That is what I want, but I don't want you to be able to see that little plastic screw cap on the end. So I did go a little bit deeper with this so I can push it down into the pumpkin a little bit more. Now, these pumpkins came with my orange pumpkins. I don't know why they're painted so red. We're going to paint them to go more with our color scheme. And so I thought this would be a good project for these. I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing here on the second pumpkin. I just cut through the skin of it, pull the flap out, and then I'm just going to cut a little cavity out inside there. Again, I need it to be very snug, so I definitely want to make sure that the hole's not too big, so I kind of test it as I go. I think that's going to work. Okay, so for the next step is I don't want them to be wobbly. They are foam, they're very lightweight, and so I thought I needed to add some kind of a weight to the bottom. And so what I'm going to do is cut a little flap here in the bottom of the pumpkins where you're not going to be able to see it, and fill it up with a weight. You could use washers, different things like that. I didn't have anything available, but I did have some Dollar Tree rocks or stones, so I'm going to try that. And I think that's going to work. It's going to weigh down the bottom, definitely make it a lot sturdier. So I carved out a little opening big enough to do like 3 pebbles inside. And then I just glued the flap closed back on side. You would never know, but we have a little weighted pumpkin now, so it won't fall over whenever somebody touches the table or anything like that. And I want to do a matching set. The candles are the same size. The pumpkins are the same size. So I can do 1 on each end of my table. So the same thing, I cut a little flap on the bottom, added 3 stones, and hot glued it back together. We are going to paint these to make these more my color scheme. I was going for that orange, green, and ivory theme, so we're going to do that on these candles as well. I mixed a little pumpkin orange together with some ivory paint, and we're going to add some baking soda to this because I think that's going to give me a great texture to make these look like kind of real pumpkins. I don't want them to be all shiny and glossy. I may have added too much baking soda, so let me add a little bit more paint here. It was a little too thick. And I'm just going to use one of these little stencil daubers to paint these. These stencil daubers, you can get them at Dollar Tree, but I go through them so much. I have been ordering them by the case on Amazon, and I think they're probably cheaper that way. I'm going to try to make sure I add those to my Amazon shop that's linked in the description of my video because they work so great for crafting. I love these. And I am going all over the pumpkin. I did make sure to get all of the little recesses on the side of the pumpkin as well with this first coat so I can cover up all the colors that were on there originally. I wanted to make these look like a soft orange pumpkin with a little bit of green shading in between each one of the sections. I definitely want it to still be like a two-tone pumpkin. I think that's going to give it a lot of character. but I definitely want orange to be most of it. So same thing here for my second pumpkin. I just start at the bottom and I go all over, just sponging that orange paint over it. The baking soda gave it a really great texture, and I think it gave me some better coverage too, because I didn't have any trouble covering up those bright red colors that were on the pumpkin before. I'm not going to add any pumpkin there to the opening. I don't want anything to interfere with my tight fit I have there for the candles. So we have two little orange pumpkins. Now I also wanted to see if I could paint the battery operated candles. They're like a grayish white. They really look like plastic, and I wanted them to look a little bit more realistic. So I'm going to go over mine with ivory acrylic, just sponging that all the way on. Just trying to make sure that I don't get any on the very tip there where the battery operated candle is. And I'm really glad I decided to paint these because they look so much better than they did before. Look at the difference between the painted one and the other one, because it was just a very glossy grayish white color. I did not enjoy that one at all. But I just went ahead and touched this up using a tiny brush at the very top here to get that top row without getting any paint on the little bulb itself. And I was really impressed with these candles. I will definitely be on the lookout for these at Dollar Tree again because they were really fun to craft with. And sometimes you're using, makeshift candle holders like this that it's not really safe to use a real candle in. And so this is a fun option. And painting them definitely made them look even fancier. If you wanted to get really fancy, you could even add some shapes to the candle as well, like with your Cricut or your paint pen or something like that. I just wanted some solid ivory ones for this DIY. And so, again, I just went over the whole thing with the sponge and some ivory paint and set those aside to start drying. Now, the pumpkins did a pretty good job. I did add a second coat, but only kind of to the outside here of the pumpkin to really make that orange shine and completely cover everything that was there before. So I just went over it with a slight second coat there on both of the pumpkins. And I love that color. I think the color turned out really nice. Nice soft orange color. And I'm going to do the same thing here for the second one. Now, I was telling you that I'm going to make these like a two-tone pumpkin. A lot of times when you see real pumpkins, they're more than one color. Like they have like almost a green, mossy looking blotchiness going down each one of the panels of the pumpkin. And so I'm going to try to recreate that look with some leafy green acrylic and a little sponge brush. I'm going to try to make it look like that. Now, the sponge brush was hit or miss. I think a small paintbrush might work better. I did kind of go back and forth because as you can see, the first one went on really light. The second row went on really bold. So I'm going over it with a baby wipe and just blotting it because I don't want too much and trying to add as little as possible when I go to add it. But kind of using the edge of the little stencil daubers didn't work out that well for me. Maybe like a regular sponge brush with like a pointed tip would work better. And I just kind of went in each one of the little pieces here of the pumpkin, added that green color, and then blended it together with my baby wipe. I don't want to cover up the orange at all. I just want to kind of add to it with the two-tone effect. And I'm really glad I did that because I think this made these look so much prettier, made them look like real pumpkins. Very cute. I didn't go all the way to the top here, so I'm going to kind of touch that up a little bit there on the top. And again, a small paintbrush might work for this as well. I did struggle a little bit. I was wanting that sponged look, which was why I was using the sponge for this. But sometimes it just went on really heavy, kind of like it did there. Kind of the same thing that happened on the first one, where the second one went on extremely heavy. But that's okay. I can kind of wipe that off because I'm working while the paint is still wet. But again, just adding that two-tone texture. Both of these pumpkins have like a larger bump out part of the pumpkin like that. And I'm just going to make sure that's kind of like towards the back of my candle when I display them. But it doesn't really matter. And again, I just finished this up. This is what it looked like if you used a brush. So that might be a little bit easier way, a little bit less paint. I'm having a problem with a little bit too much paint going on there, but I was able to make it work. Look how cool they look, the shaded little pumpkins. Now we have our candles that we painted. I'm going to add these to the pumpkin candle holders. And the great thing about these is to turn them on, all you have to do is twist them. Isn't this so cool? I love how this set of candle holders turned out, and the candles too. Let me show you what they look like during the day. Here they are, our little ivory candles. And they flicker as well, which is great for a battery operated candle to flicker like a real candle. And the pumpkins from Walmart that we painted, the orange and green. I love the shading on those. Let me show you what they look like lit up at night. Again, really pretty. I think these are going to look really great on my table for each side of my centerpiece. And of course, I'm starting to decorate for fall. I know fall hasn't officially started yet, but you know, we're going with it. And this is how they turned out. And let me show you the flicker as well, to kind of get the vibe of how these candles turned out. Isn't that so cute? I wanted to decorate my tier tray. This is my 2-tier tray that I got on Amazon. It is rectangular shape, so I really love that. It's really fun to decorate. I wanted to do a fall woodland theme on this one as well, and I found some great, really shiny items at the Dollar Tree. So I'm going to kind of have a shiny theme, but also a fall critter theme on this one. So this vase is going to work perfectly because it's shiny glass. It's got a mushroom on it, orange for fall. I'm just going to fill it up with some sand from the Dollar Tree. And I actually found some shiny like feathers here from the Dollar Tree. They're grass with feathers that I think will look really cute in this vase. It's going to make my top tier really tall, which I don't mind, but I think the turkey feathers go great with like the fantastical fall theme that I've done so much in my house. I love that for fall. I picked up 3 of these from the Dollar Tree, all a little bit different colors, as you can see. I thought the variety of these would look really good. I just went ahead and removed the tags. I'm going to leave them all together, but I'm going to kind of spread them out so I can mix all the different colors of grasses and feathers together in this. And I think 3 is the perfect size to fill up this fall vase. So this is going to be the first item for my tier tray. Really easy, and I needed something really tall because I'm going to be adding one of those great little fall plates there to the top of my tier tray, and I need something that you can see behind it. So this is definitely going to be tall. I'm going to put it right here on the back of my top tier, and I did want to kind of arrange it a little bit, kind of mix up the grass, make it look a little bit more random here, and the feathers until I was happy with it. Let me zoom out to show you the whole thing. Definitely a large project for the top of my tier tray, but I think it's really cute and it's going to go well with the theme. The other item I'm going to put in the back are some of these little straw bales from the Dollar Tree. You might want to cut these open over a trash can because they are very messy when you first take them out of the package, as you can see. I'm just going to stack 2 together to have something tall in the back, but something, you know, that you're not really going to be able to see much of it, but you'll be able to see the side of it. So I'm going to stack them like little hay bales here in the back just to have something large back here with a fall theme. I think that's going to work well like that. And then here is the third plate that I got at the Dollar Tree. This one is the fox. So cute. I'm going to use another one of those plate holders from Amazon. All I have to do is remove the tag on this, and this is going to be ready to go. The tags were not too bad on these plates or cups. Sometimes the Dollar Tree tags can really fight you. Heat always seems to be my secret weapon on those. And this is going to be so cute on the top tier. Again, it's kind of large, which is why I picked the large items to go behind it. I'm just going to put this right here in front of the pole of my tier tray and put my little fox here right in front. He's really shiny. Let me turn off my flash there so that you can get a better look of him. I think he's really cute. The next items I'm going to add are a couple of these little gourds that I got at Target Dollar Spot. The only thing is I wanted to make them shiny. Everything that I got at the Dollar Tree for this project are shiny. So I'm going to use some Mod Podge gloss to make them shiny. They had a very matte finish, and they're just 2 gourds. I just sprayed them with 1 coat of that gloss Mod Podge, and they really made them shine. The items that I'm going to be using for the bottom tier are the ceramic items from the Dollar Tree, and they're super shiny like this. So I thought this would make it coordinate well. And I don't have a lot of room, which is why I'm using some smaller items. I'm going to lay one down and stand one up and just kind of decorate the sides of that great little fall plate. And this is how my top tier looks so far. So cute. But let's start decorating down here at the bottom. I have a lot more room down here on the bottom of my tier tray. The first item I'm going to use is this little ceramic pumpkin dish that I got at Dollar Tree. I wanted a really easy tier tray, and so most of these items are ready to go, which are my favorite. The green color is perfect for my green and orange that I'm going with. And I'm going to use a plate stand for this as well. It'll make it stand up nicely. It'll make it really tall here in the back. It matches the color of the fox plate really well with that color of minty green color. So I think that's going to fit perfectly. The next item I found from Dollar Tree is this mushroom. Isn't it so cute? It's a ceramic top with like a wood mushroom stem. It did have a sticky tag on there. I'm just going to go ahead and remove that. I want to leave the natural wood on the mushroom, and I think that looks really pretty. The color is very neutral with that like almost like a pink tone, but I love the ceramic gloss on there. And I was going for a shiny look on these, and so I'm going to leave it that color. And it's nice and tall, so I can add that to the back as well, and you should be able to see it. The next item I found was from the Dollar Tree, glossy ceramic gourd. This one is like a white with a green leaf, really pretty, and of course, ready to go. I'm going to display it here next to that pumpkin. I think they look really nice together. The next item is a fox from the Dollar Tree. This is the fox that has the little apple from the Dollar Tree. The only thing is this is the only piece from my bottom of the tier tray that doesn't have the gloss. So we're going to make it glossy as well by using some of that glossy Mod Podge. You can also use like any kind of gloss sealers if you ever want to give that glazed look to a ceramic item from the Dollar Tree. He's really cute, and I think he looks even better when I made him shiny. So I just sprayed him with one coat. Now he's shiny just like the rest of them, and I'm going to place him here in the middle of my tray. The next item for this bottom tier tray is this glossy little orange. Look how pretty this is. I love it. Doesn't need anything. The colors are perfect, and it's nice and small. So I'm going to put it right here in the front corner of my tier tray. And you can see how I was talking about all of the glossy items. The next glossy item that I found from the Dollar Tree is one of these owls. They have these in a couple different colors, but it goes great with my fall woodland critter theme that I wanted to go for this tier tray. And it's nice and small, so I'm going to put it in front as well. So many fun ceramic items down here, really filling that up. To finish it off, I'm going to use this little wooden welcome sign. That is a pumpkin from the Dollar Tree. It's not glossy, but since it's wood, I'm going to let it go. It did have a super sticky tag on the back of it, so that was pretty much the DIY on this one. Was just getting that sticky tag off of the back of it. I think this is going to work well for the front of the bottom of the tier tray, and it can kind of hide the pole in the middle as well, so it's not really going to block anything behind it. But I didn't do anything directly behind it besides filler because you wouldn't be able to see it back there anyway. But I think that looks really cute. So many fun items for this tier tray, and again, so easy. For filler, I'm going to use some faux fall leaves. I actually got these at Walmart, walmart.com. I liked the neutral colors of these, but you could always use fall leaves from the Dollar Tree. They had this light green color, which I really appreciated. And so I am going to just cut off some of these to use as filler, mainly for the bottom tier, to go around all those beautiful ceramic fall items. I did do a couple of them in brown as well. And I was surprised to see they also had these like kind of bright green leaves on there, but I like them. I like the contrast. I think those will work well too. So I'm going to go ahead and use 3 of those as well. They're a little bent up, kind of like Dollar Tree fall leaves, but if you use a little heat from a heat gun or a blow dryer on those, you can make them look so much better. I'm going to do that on these little ones as well, just to open them up a little bit better so you can see them. But this is going to be great filler for that bottom tier. I'm just going to start scattering the fall leaves all over. They'll look like fallen leaves. just a perfect filler. And I really do appreciate the neutral colors. They really let all of my pieces shine, and they fill up all of the gaps between all of the items. So many like little fun items down here: mushrooms, pumpkins, gourds. We have a fox, an owl, and a little welcome pumpkin there on the front. I love it. I thought about doing like a little mini pennant banner for this tier tray, but I didn't really think it needed it. I think it's really cute on its own. So I'm just, again, filling it up with filler, making sure you can see all these cute little items. Another fun thing that I wanted to use for fall filler are acorns. These are the acorns from Dollar General. They're only $1. They're super cute. You could also use the faux acorns from the Dollar Tree. They have them in lots of different colors. I'm just going to scatter some of these around as well for filler, and perfect for the fall theme. Just anywhere that kind of needed something, I just tossed an acorn. Really easy. I don't really need a lot of filler for the top tier, but I have a little bit of room, so I'm just going to add a pine cone right here behind that gourd to finish off the top tier. And let me give you a little tour of my woodland animal fall tier tray. I told you this was going to be really easy. Everything was pretty much ready to go. I just added a glossy coat to a couple items to really go with that glazed ceramic look of those beautiful items that I found from the Dollar Tree. But I kept that same color scheme that I went with my coffee bar, and I'm going to display this in my kitchen. So I think that the two will go together nicely. Lots of that light green color and orange, but lots of fall items as well. We have hay bales and gourds and foxes, little pine cones, so many fun items. I really love the feathers and the vase as well. Really kind of a statement piece there on top. And I'm not afraid of doing like larger items like that on the top of a tier tray. I think you can really make your tier tray really pop by making it nice and tall like that. But this is how it turned out. This is my first fall tier tray. If you want more fall tier trays, I have so many of them on my channel. I've lost count. But I have tons of different themes to choose from if woodland fall is not really your vibe, but I think it turned out really cute. This is how the bottom shelf turned out with all of those cute little items from the Dollar Tree. And I think this is going to look really cute on my kitchen counter for fall. Let me give you a little top to bottom view of my tier tray, and I would really appreciate it if you would use some of your hypes this week for this video. It's going to help my video do better here on YouTube. For this fall DIY, I got this great sign from the Dollar Tree. These are so cute this year. It's a pick your own pumpkin sign. And I also got some of the fabric garland for fall from the Dollar Tree. I thought I could combine the two together to make something really special. The sign itself is adorable. It doesn't need anything. It doesn't have any glitter. It did have this little raffia bow that was really kind of flat and smashed, probably from shipping. So what I did was I used a little heat to remove it, but I'm basically going to clean it up, retie it, and add it back to the pumpkin because I did like it. I just didn't want it to look so flat. So I just removed any of the remaining glue residue and simply unwound it and retied this to make it look a little bit better. What I was thinking is that I could use that rag garland as like a frame for the sign to really make it special. So here is our little raffia bow. Let's go ahead and attach it. I went ahead and cut this one down to make it even and reattached it. It looks so much better now. I'm glad that I gave it a quick little update, but otherwise the sign is perfect. Now, at first I was thinking maybe I could just take the garland and attach it to either the back or the sides of the sign to kind of frame it out. But then I was concerned on how exactly I would attach it. I didn't want to block all of the rag garland. And there is quite a bit. I think it's like 6 feet long, this rag garland from the Dollar Tree, but I love the colors. I love that there's green on this one. So I was thinking I could probably find a better way to frame this out. And then I was thinking, I probably could make a wreath with this. There probably is enough just with one piece to make a simple wreath to frame it out. So I'm going to use one of these, the brass wreath rings from the Dollar Tree, the larger one. And I think it's going to be the perfect size for this. So I went ahead and just removed the hanger from the sign because I'm going to have to do a different hanger now with that wreath there. And I can hang the sign down in the middle like this. So I wasn't sure if this was going to be long enough because, when you're doing a wreath, you always need more than you think. But since this is just a single wire wreath, it really didn't take very much. And there was plenty on this one piece of garland if you can only find one. I just unwound the end and simply tied that to the wreath form. Now, I was thinking I could just kind of knot this off on here and start winding it around. One thing that I noticed though is that the twine is a little slippery, and so it just kind of goes around and around the wreath form as I'm wrapping it. So I'm going to have to secure it a little bit more than just the twine that was on there because, again, it was not wrapping. So no big deal. We'll just use a couple of zip ties on this to keep everything in place. I really like these tiny ones from the hardware section at Dollar Tree. And I just went ahead and zip tied this. This will keep it in place so I can kind of pull and tug on it as I wrap my entire wreath form with this cute rag garland. I really like this rag garland. It is definitely new this year. The only thing I didn't like about it is it seemed to have a lot of strings on it from the fabric fraying a little bit. They probably could have cut the fabric a little bit better, but it is a rag garland, so I guess it is supposed to look a little bit crazy and ragged like that. I got all the way around here. I think this is going to be the perfect amount. And so once I get to the end, I just took the twine like before, and I'm going to tie that to the wreath form. I can kind of spread it out a little bit and make sure that it's even everywhere, but I think that this is going to be a really cute frame for that sign. They had several different varieties of the little fuzzy fall signs. They also had ones with like tan colors, and I really like the classic pumpkin and orange. I thought that would be really cute. So here it is, our frame for this. I think that's so cute and festive. I don't really want to block the writing on it, so I'm going to be hanging the wreath a little bit behind the sign, and I'm going to tie it on. So I just took some twine and just using the existing hangers there on the fall sign, I'm just going to tie that off, and then I can use that twine to tie it to the wreath form. That way I can kind of adjust it exactly how I want it. I just went ahead and tied this around, and I did tie it a couple of times to kind of raise it a little bit so it would hang properly in the wreath form. You have to kind of test it out to see exactly where you're going to want it to be. But this is such a fun way of decorating with these cute fall signs from the Dollar Tree and making them a little extra special. I know the fabric garland came in another color variety, I think too. I really like the green in that. I always love decorating with green for fall. So I just went ahead and tied that on. And again, adjusting it a little bit, and I left it long enough where I could use that same twine to make a hanger. So before it came with the orange and white wood beads on the hanger for the sign, so they match perfectly. So I might as well just go ahead and use these as well. I just went ahead and strung some on both sides, trying to repeat the same pattern here and keep it even. I want about the same amount of wood beads on each side, and these are a nice small wood bead. They're not too crazy. I'm going to go add, I'm not going to fill it up completely because I need a little bit of room for the wreath form to be there. But I did add quite a few of the wood beads to it. And then I put it together and just tied it together here to make a hanger to be able to hang everything at once. And this is how it turned out, our little pumpkin sign wreath. I think it's so cute. I love the little fuzzy pumpkin there on the front. That is a fun surprise. And then the rag garland, I think, really adds to it. Here's a little close-up view of how this project turned out. I love all of the colors on this, and it's a nice size sign that you can use for a wall hanging, for wall decor, or you could also use it for a wreath for your front door. Very cute, and I'm really glad I put those two items together. For this fall DIY, I wanted to do something fun with one of these candles that I found from the Dollar Tree. And the pumpkin I actually got at Walmart. I got it online. I'll try to link it in today's video. It was a big package of lots of pumpkins because the larger pumpkins at the Dollar Tree don't seem like they're really worth what they're charging for. So I wanted to find another source. I ordered them online and had them shipped to my house. Now, the bottom part of this candle, I thought I could just maybe get the glue hot and peel that off because this was going to get in the way of making a pumpkin candle holder. So I just busted mine off with a pair of pliers and it took care of that problem. I was also wondering if I could just pop the little battery operated light off the bottom of it so I could decorate this how I like. It's got like a glitter material inside. I think these were originally for Valentine's Day. Maybe they didn't sell well. I think people really didn't know what to do with them. I went into the flame with a little yellow. I'm also going to add some orange to that to make it look like a flame. And I'm going to use some of this Rust-Oleum frosted glass, spraying that on the inside of the candle to get a frosted look. So I can still light it up. It'll be bright, but it's not going to have the glitter that it had before. So I kind of like how that turned out. I did a couple coats of it to make sure that it was kind of cloudy. It doesn't really get cloudy until you dry it. And then I just need to reattach this little battery operated light here to the bottom. It was kind of hot glued in before. And so that is what I'm going to do to reattach it. I just needed the bottom of this to all be the same width so I could have an opening where I can pull the candle in and out of the pumpkin so I can turn it on and off because the switch is on the bottom. Now, this is the pumpkin that we're using. It's painted very nicely. I don't really need to do anything to it. Removing the stem was a little tricky. They really had that glued in there. So I wanted to make sure I didn't tear any of the orange part of the pumpkin where I didn't want that to be torn there at the top because I'm going to leave the pumpkin as is. I just lay the little battery operated candle on top and kind of sketch out the hole that I need to cut in this. It's a pretty nice foam pumpkin. I was able to cut like the plastic coating off here and to cut through the styrofoam just using a razor blade and working my way around here. I don't need it to be too deep, but I want it to look nice for a candle holder for like a centerpiece is what I was thinking with this one. And so once I got that off, I just kind of peeled off the foam that I had cut there in the top to form like a little cavity here for the candle to sit in, and so that you won't be able to see how this thing works, the switch or anything like that, and something for it to sit in a little bit. I decided it wasn't quite deep enough, so I did go in and cut it a little bit more. I probably went down about an inch here on the top of the foam pumpkin. And you could really do this too with some of the Dollar Tree pumpkins as well. But for the prices they were charging, I definitely started looking other places for some fall pumpkins. To decorate it, I thought fall leaves would be perfect. So I'm going to use some orange and yellow fall leaves. These are like just a leaf bunch from the Dollar Tree. And they have the maple leaves on them in two different colors, the orange and red. And then the other one is a garland that I got from the Dollar Tree that has like the oak leaf shape here. So I think the contrast will be pretty and I can overlap them. I'm going to have the maple leaves be on top, and I'm just going to glue this all the way around the top of the pumpkin to give it a fun fall effect. And it really kind of helps hide and blend the top there where I cut it out for the candle. But I'm making sure to leave the opening completely open so that I'm able to put the candle in and out of it. And I decided to use like all of the colors that kind of came with it, the two different colors of the maple leaf, and then I used two of the different like yellow and red colors here from the garland and just kind of made those work. They were a little longer, so I just kind of trimmed the ends of them again to make sure that I leave the opening completely open here. And I just kind of crisscrossed the maple leaves in like a little plus pattern there, and the same thing with the oak leaves. Now all I have to do is put the candle inside. This DIY was so easy. It's really easy to turn the candle on and off. The last thing I wanted to do was to make it look like a flame, and so I just used my orange paint pen and kind of sketched the texture of the flame on there. So it kind of looks like a fire here with the yellow and orange, and it goes great with the fall colors of the leaves and the pumpkin down below. This was such an easy DIY to make and a fun way to use one of those battery operated candles from the Dollar Tree. This is how it turned out. This is what it looks like during the daytime lit up. Super cute. I love the warm colors of the light in there as well. And the frosting, I'm really kind of glad I did get rid of the glitter that was inside of that because I didn't really want that for this DIY. But I think this would make a really great centerpiece. The candle inside is pretty bright. This is what it looks like lit up at night. Very warm colors. And I think it's just a really fun idea for a fall centerpiece. I tried to stick with like really traditional fall DIYs today, fall colors and fall items. And I really had a great time putting these DIYs together for you today. For this fall DIY, I'm going to use one of these 3D wreath forms from the Dollar Tree and try to make a pumpkin centerpiece with this. Now, one thing I noticed though is that my main support piece was broken. And my message to Dollar Tree on this is if you're going to charge $1.75 for these, can they not be broken? That would be great. And then it comes with these little metal clips to hold it all together. So I had never built one of these before, so I actually had to read the directions a little bit. I hot glued this together, but that was not really holding. And so I'm going to try something else. I'm going to hot glue it and then wrap some twine around it to try to patch this because this is the structure piece of the wreath. And so everything is going to be attached to this. So I need this to be strong. So hot glue and twine seem to do the trick. And I thought this would make a perfect pumpkin because it's going to have all the edges, the round edges of a pumpkin, and I can make it into like a basket centerpiece was my plan. So I went ahead and put the second largest in there, and then the next size, and then the very smallest here last. The metal little pins are kind of long. They're longer than I would like, but I'm just going to disguise them in the end because I couldn't really break them off. They seemed pretty sturdy. I'm only going to use one of the support structures like this. I just put it on there like that, and then you just bend the little metal tabs down to secure the wreath form like that. And I do that for all of them. And that really helps with the spacing, especially for making this into a pumpkin. I don't want it to get in the way on the top though, so I'm definitely not going to do it at the top. I'm just going to leave it like that and have the little base be at the bottom. Now, to make this look like a pumpkin, I love crafting with a paper bag. So these are the paper bags from the Dollar Tree. And I've done a lot of fall crafts with these. They're so fun. And I thought we could do kind of like a basket kind of texture on each one of those pieces of the pumpkin. So I just trimmed off the very end of my paper bag and I'm just going to simply cut it in strips. I just have a stack of paper bags. I'm going to try to cut them all about the same size and just cut it all the way across. Even down here where I have the bottom of the bag, but I'm not going to use that part of it. And then I'm going to use these little pieces. I am going to first open them up, rip them open here. So I have a long strip, and then you want to wrinkle it all up and wad up the paper. You want to really distress it to get the look of paper crafting with this. And I'm going to start at the very top here of it's going to be a pumpkin. And I add hot glue to like the top part of it. And I am going to kind of simply wad this around it. I definitely still want it to be wrinkled, lots of texture and fun. But I also want it to cover like the entire black wire from the wreath form. And so I just kind of work around that and kind of glue it to itself there on the back a little bit with any excess hot glue, finishing it off here at the bottom. What I want to do is make this look like a pumpkin, which you could just do a pumpkin itself. It would be really cute. I'm going to make mine into a centerpiece. So I'm also going to make it into a little bit of a basket if we can. So same thing with this one. I just took a strip, crumpled it up, hot glued it to the wire of the pumpkin, and I'm going to simply continue doing that same thing all the way around the pumpkin. One thing I tried to do was when I went to weave the bottom of the pumpkin, the first time I tried it, I did try going in with the paper like this and weaving the basket at the bottom with the paper, but I really didn't like how that turned out. So I did figure out another way to make it into a basket. So stay tuned for that. I have made so many fun fall DIYs with paper bags. I made a giant pumpkin wreath for my front door in my last video, and it turned out so cute. I painted it. It was the first time that I'd really painted the paper bags, and that worked out really well. I used to spray paint on it. This one, I'm just going to leave the paper bag. I wanted the brown feel of this, and I wanted to get like a basket feel, kind of a woven feel to this basket. It just makes it look so much more high end than the little wreath form did before. I've always seen these little wreath forms from the Dollar Tree, and I've never really known what to do with them. I didn't really like the idea of adding flowers to them. I guess I've never really seen it done. Maybe it does turn out really cool. I did make sure that you couldn't see any wire there in the back, and I wasn't having any gapping, because when you go to glue this on, you can't really see what's going on there on the other side too much. You're really kind of worried about covering the top and the side pieces of this. But again, I just glue it all on, and then I kind of even crinkle it more as I go. And just a few more pieces, and we will cover this entire thing. And can you kind of see how the pumpkin is coming together with this? I saw this at the store, and I just really thought, oh, I could bet I can make this into some kind of a pumpkin during the fall. You're looking for things shaped like this for sure. And I actually found something kind of similar, a metal pumpkin at Goodwill the other day that I need to figure out how to craft with somehow. I don't shop at Goodwill much. They seem to be a little pricey, especially with their Dollar Tree items. I always laugh. But anymore, they might be the same price as the Dollar Tree. And one more piece, and I'll have this entire thing covered. I'm not too worried about covering the wire there on the inside bottom yet. I can always go in there with more paper to cover that part up. But this is the last one, and I just kind of glue that, crumpling it as I go. And oh, I kind of overlapped all of the bag there on the bottom. Then with my leftover like scrap pieces, I added some hot glue here to the base on the inside just to finish it off a little bit to cover up all that exposed wire. And I just kind of glued it to the side panels, working it through. It does have that like little metal piece that comes up from the bottom, but I'm going to be filling this up with things, so you're not going to be able to see that anyway. And I'm just doing this just because I think it makes it look a little bit better. And I just kind of crisscross on there using that excess paper bag to cover the top of that. And just to make it look a little bit more finished. And I just kind of wrapped it around there. I don't want anything to be really sticking out from it. I just want it to cover anything that was exposed inside there. The very top, I'm going to put a pumpkin stem on there, but I also have that wire sticking out here from the top that I need to disguise. And so I just took a little piece of that paper bag and glued that around that as well, so you don't see any of the wire wreath form anymore. So that looks good to me. I love the shape of this for a pumpkin. It definitely is going to need something a little heavier for a base to make it stand up. And then I decided to use burlap for the basket. Now, this burlap roll from the Dollar Tree is too wide to really kind of go around the curves of this pumpkin. And so I decided to make it smaller just by cutting it in half, making a thinner burlap ribbon. And I did go in there and kind of test this out with paper bags for this part, and I really did not like the way that it looked. The only problem I had with the burlap is it did want to fray a little bit, so I tried to clean it up a little bit before I got started. But what I want to do is weave a very small basket here on the bottom so that I can fill it up with pumpkins for fall and have it be a centerpiece. I just hot glue it under one part of the pumpkin, and I'm weaving it through, so over and under, to create like a little basket weave. And I just went over the very base here next to our base, and I'm going to have it stop here on the back where I started. I just hot glued it to itself right there. And I'm going to do separate rows. So I went ahead and cut the burlap instead of continuing to wind it around. I want everything to be kind of level with the basket. So I just go in here with another piece of that. This time I'm alternating that next one over here that I'm going to go under, gluing it, and I'm weaving the opposite pattern. So if I went under before, I go over this time, and I'm just going to go through and weave a basket. Now, I don't want to cover the entire pumpkin. I really love like kind of the open aspect of this pumpkin DIY. I just wanted to do enough to be able to fill it up with some things. So I did test a couple of different ways. I'm going in here with a third row here, again, alternating which one I started on and just gluing that. I think the burlap works well because it's really the same color as the paper bag and kind of blends it in. It also gives it another fun texture to this DIY. And again, my only problem was the burlap was it wanting to fray on me a little bit. And I just kind of trimmed that off as I went, hoping for no more fraying. I probably should have sealed the burlap with a little Mod Podge before I cut it. That might have helped with the fraying a little bit. And so I'm going to try it like that, but I do end up having to add another row of burlap because it wasn't quite high enough. For the base, I needed something kind of heavy, so I got one of those little chunky wood cutouts from the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to cover the entire thing with some brown floral moss. I think that'll look really pretty for fall. I do leave the center open because that's what I'm going to be gluing the pumpkin to. But I hot glued the moss all around the edges and the sides of this. You could also stain or paint it if that's more your vibe, but I thought this would offer another fun fall touch. And I'm really not going to be putting any kind of filler like this inside the basket itself. I'm going to be filling it up with pumpkins. And so I think that will work. So I just glued it all on, trimming that off to kind of give me a flat bottom on that still. And you could still see a lot of the wood sign through there. So I went through and kind of filled up any holes. One thing about that floral moss from the Dollar Tree is it's all like individual pieces. So you kind of have to glue them all down. But as you can see, you get a really fun, like foresty vibe with it. So I really enjoy crafting with it. And again, I just went around and kind of filled up anywhere where I could see a little bit of wood showing through. Then I added some hot glue to the center of it and set our little pumpkin right on top like that. And so it stands up on its own. It's nice and sturdy, and I won't have to worry about it wobbling back and forth. So that is what it looks like so far. And then for the pumpkin stem, I'm going to make that out of paper bags as well too. So I'm going to make it out of 4 strips. I just take them and start wadding them up as well. I want them to have that same like crinkly paper texture. And I'm going to glue them to each other here. So I start here at the end and start twisting those together. I think I'm going to need that 4th one. So I add one more. So I have a pretty good diameter. I'm not going to add any wire or anything to it. I'm just going to kind of have the paper be the structure itself. I hot glued it and then twisted it like this. I want it to look like a twisty old pumpkin stem, and I want it to kind of go off to the side like that. I did glue the individual layers to themselves there, so it will kind of keep its shape there without a lot of gapping. Like that. I want it to kind of go off to the side, kind of like that. And again, I did have to glue it to itself to kind of keep that shape for sure, because it kind of wanted to fall apart on me a little bit. Once I got it put together just the way I like it, I'm going to trim up the edge and we can attach this to the top. I do have a little bit of the wire wreath form showing there, but that is going to be covered up there. With this, I glue this on kind of one side and then have it kind of like go towards the other side, like leaning that way. And I made it a little bit longer than I needed. So I'm going to trim it up a little bit to make it more to scale with the pumpkin. And that worked out really well. Now what we're going to fill it with, we're going to fill it with pumpkins. I have some pumpkins. These are from Walmart. I got these in a big bag with lots of different sizes because I wasn't really happy with Dollar Tree's selection of big pumpkins. They come like this. I also got them in white. From Walmart, I will try to remember to post links to these. I think I can link them to the YouTube video too. I got them at walmart.com. They shipped them to my house. So I have orange pumpkins, I have white pumpkins, and then I also want to do my 3rd color that I'm crafting with today, which is the mint green. For these were the $3 pumpkin garland, the flocked pumpkins from Dollar Tree. You do have to try to get the string off of them without tearing up the pumpkin, which can be a little bit challenging, but we're going to try to make that work. I had 3 of the orange, I had 3 of the white, and so I'm going to do 3 of the mint green, I think. And I did have some difficulty getting these off. I don't know why they have those glued in there so well. I guess to try to make it not fall apart. But the pumpkin itself is so cute with that flocked material. And the color is perfect. Some of them came apart a little bit easier than others, like that one did. And that's when I realized, they're all falling out. So I didn't do my basket high enough. Again, I wanted it to not really look like the whole thing is covered with a basket, but it's definitely going to need another row of the burlap to be able to hold 9 pumpkins inside for sure. I tried it with less pumpkins and I didn't really like it as well. So definitely going to add to this, which is no problem. I can just use some more of the burlap roll and cut that down to size. And again, you could really use any kind of ribbon for this too. And I'm thinking even rope might work as well if you don't have any burlap available. But I'm going to go in there and go in with just one more row here. So I think I had done 3 before, so a total of 4. And again, just gluing it on the back of one, alternating. And again, I still get that open pumpkin concept that I was going for this, but I definitely need the functionality of the sides so the pumpkins don't fall all over the table every time somebody breathes on it. So that should solve that problem. The other thing, I noticed the pumpkins are really white and I wanted them to be ivory. So I just went over them with 1 coat of ivory paint just to make these go with my color scheme a little bit better. I do like that the pumpkin stems on these are already kind of distressed. I like that look. And I like that the little orange pumpkins are kind of two-tone too. I think that's really cute. And I love how all these colors work together. So I took the 3 white ones, just painted them ivory, which was definitely easy to do since they were already white. I was just disappointed with the Dollar Tree Plus's price on their medium-sized pumpkins. And so that is why I went through Walmart to try to get some bigger foam pumpkins because I wasn't having any luck at Dollar Tree or Dollar General this year. They just want too much for them, I think. Now to fill it up, let's test out our little higher basket and see if it's going to work better this time with our 9 pumpkins. And I'm trying to alternate the colors as I add them in there so it looks like a good variety of colors, and that works so much better. I'm going to finish my little pumpkin basket off with some fall leaves here at the top instead of a pumpkin leaf. I'm going to use this fall garland. It has some beautiful oak leaves on there, and I just left them together like that, hot gluing that to the pumpkin stem so I have a little orange leaf coming off both sides like that. I think that looks perfect. And this DIY is complete, our little pumpkin basket using that 3D wreath form from the Dollar Tree. Let me show you how this turned out. The little paper bag pumpkin, so cute. And I love the fact that I can use this as a centerpiece. It's really kind of large and it's filled with pumpkins for fall, which I love. And so many fun little details to this. Isn't that so cute? I really enjoy how that turned out. And now it's time for the final reveal. I really hope you got lots of fun fall crafting inspiration from me today. And please let me know which DIY was your favorite down in the comments below, or just leave a comment. I always love reading all of your comments. And you can find me at Crafty Beach on YouTube on all social media. And this is my QR code if you would like to buy me a coffee. I hope you enjoy the final reveal.
Open up the window. I'm breathing in the last of September. I can feel the wind blow, and the late summer sky is like a giant ember. Everything is turning into gold when the autumn leaves are playing chasing, puts a smile up on my face. They leave their branches one by one and whirl around there just for fun. Some are faster, some are slow, and some are high and some are low, dancing through the last days of September. Since I was a little child, child. Every year for as long as I remember, all the leaves were running wild, going all the way until November. Turn the world around us into gold. When the autumn leaves are playing chase it, puts a smile up on my face. They leave their branches one by one and whirl around there just for fun. Some are faster, some are slow, and some are high and some are low, dancing through the last days of September. I wonder where they're going, the flight of swallows sailing through the sky. There's no way of knowing, but maybe someplace far from you and I. When the autumn leaves are playing chase it, puts a smile up on my face. They leave their branches one by one and whirl around there just for fun. Some are faster, some are slow, and some are high and some are low, dancing through the last days of September. When the autumn leaves are playing chase it, puts a smile up on my face. They leave their branches one by one and whirl around there just for fun. Some are faster, some are slow, and some are high and some are low, dancing through the last days of September. Dancing through the last days of September.
Summer is ended, the leaves are turning brown. Red and yellow, soon they'll be falling down. Now, I'm not ready, not just yet. I'm not ready for autumn. Autumn comes too soon. Autumn comes too soon. The light that flickers will blow out with the side, and all that blossomed will wither away and die. Not now, I'm not ready, not just yet. I'm not ready for autumn. Autumn comes too soon. I'm not ready for autumn. Autumn comes too soon.
Open up the window. I'm breathing in the last of September. I can feel the wind blow, and the late summer sky is like a giant ember.
Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of today's crafting marathon. And I also want to give a huge thank you to all of my YouTube members for supporting my channel. Thank you to Melinda Elizabeth, Jamie Job, Janae Farrington, Pamelia Wren, Donna Schreiner, I Am Mojo Jojo, Marin Christensen, Adrian Brolt, Debbie Middleton, Donna Tanner, Kim Rogers, Powell Puppy Life, Renee Albanese, Mindy Hupp, Jenny, and Debbie Austin. I really appreciate each and every one of you, and also everyone that's made it to this part of the video. If you would like to become a Crafty Beach Bum member, all you have to do is hit the join button next to today's video on your computer or phone. You're going to get early ad-free access to my videos and a badge next to your name when you comment down below. And we would also love to see what you've been crafting. Be sure to share your DIYs with us in our private Facebook group. We would love to see them. You guys are so creative, and I always have that linked in the description of my videos. Now, would you like even more fall crafting inspiration? I've got you covered. Check out one of these fall DIY videos right here. And until next time, happy crafting for fall.